Another week, another win. At the 2-minute warning right now in Santa Clara, but the 49ers are putting the final touches on a dominant win over the rival Dallas Cowboys. The score at the moment, as the Cowboys are possessing the ball one final time, 42-10. Yes, you heard that right. 42-10. The 49ers out in front of the Dallas Cowboys, and they will earn an incredibly impressive, dominant win on Sunday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys. The Niners 5-0 now in 2023, and the Cowboys fall to 3-2 with a couple of losses to NFC West teams, the 49ers and the Arizona Cardinals, oddly enough. An incredible win. Welcome into overtime here on 95.7 The Game. Mark Randy and Sterling Bennett with you all night long here on 95.7 The Game, and we have a ton to get into. 42-10, again, the final score, Sterling. You and I know we're both expecting this to be more of a competitive game, but we still both thought the 49ers would come out on top. My God, they passed every single possible test tonight with flying colors. A 32-point advantage right now. Backups have played nearly the entire fourth quarter. Hard to find an area where the 49ers could be any better tonight. They were so incredibly dominant against a really good team in the Cowboys.
All the talk of watch out for the Cowboys. Niners haven't played anybody yet. Who are the San Francisco? Oh, they play the Rams. They play the Cardinals. The San Francisco 49ers are 5-0. And Mark, it is Fleet Week, and they just boat raced the Dallas Cowboys at Levi Stadium 42-10. I don't want to hear Skip Bayless. I don't want to hear Jerry Jones. Fly back to Dallas, cry in your cowboy hats, because it's night for the Dallas Cowboys, Mark. Woo! 5-0.
It was so incredibly dominant. I mean, the broadcast on NBC on Sunday Night Football, midway through the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, panning to the Cowboys sideline after the latest interception, after the latest George Kittle touchdown, when Christian McCaffrey got into the end zone, when Jordan Mason broke a long touchdown run. It wasn't just a win, and it wasn't just an embarrassing loss for the Cowboys. It wasn't just this 42-10 deficit. It wasn't just a Week 5 win. The Niners broke the spirit of the Cowboys.
The Cowboys quit in the third quarter.
Dak Prescott, I forget exactly what point it was. The 49ers were up 28-10. And Dak Prescott, the game's not over. You're down 18 points early in the third quarter. Things can change. Who knows? Just throws a gimme interception to Deshaun Gibson deep down the field.
He just said, screw it, game's over anyways.
It's what it felt like.
Here's the ball back. We're not going to win.
It's what it felt like. The Niners absolutely broke the spirit of the Dallas Cowboys. And, we spend a lot of time, if you're an avid listener here on 95.7 The Game, first of all, thank you, but you heard a lot of the Dak Prescott sound earlier this week. Jerry Jones calling the 49ers...
You're going to make me angry. Whatever, Dak. Go home. Cry.
Calling the 49ers the best team in the NFL. Yeah, they're most likely to win the Super Bowl right now. Dak Prescott being asked about last year's playoff loss to the 49ers, kind of being incredulous that he was even asked that. No, it makes a lot of sense. And by the way, the game going final right now as the final 5 seconds are ticking off the clock. So we can officially say 42-10, the final score. But Dak Prescott talking about the 49ers win over Dallas in the playoffs last year. Same thing happened the year prior in the playoffs as well at Jerry World in Texas.
3 straight wins against the Cowboys, Mark, in prime time.
Yeah, and we're at a point where the Dallas Cowboys have a 49ers problem. The Niners are in their head. The Niners are obviously also just a better football team right now. 42-10. Man. Dominant. George Kittle right now getting some airtime on NBC. 3 touchdowns today. He finishes with 3 catches, 67 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean it though, Sterling. The Cowboys have a 49ers problem. Even if this was equal footing in terms of talent, I know there's tons of talk about the Cowboys' defense. They are obviously a fantastic defense.
Number 1, the boogeyman.
They didn't show up here today, but the Niners are in the Cowboys' head. And you saw, you said it, in the third quarter, they gave up. They were done with this game when it was 28-10. The game's not over at that point, but they gave up. They were ready to get on the plane and head back to Texas. They gave up. The Dallas Cowboys have a 49ers problem.
San Francisco came in and said, oh, you want to tell us how great your defense is? Oh, Micah Parsons is a great player. Oh, you want to tell us how good your coverage rate is? And though you've allowed 10.25 points a game, Why don't we drop 41 on you?
42!
42? Wow!
They had allowed 41 through 4 games entering tonight. 41 points over 4 games allowed by this Dallas defense. The Niners said, all right, we'll put up 42 ourselves tonight. And guess what? They fumbled at the goal line. It could have been 49.
San Francisco heard all the noise. Oh, Trey Lance is going to give them the secrets. There was no secret sauce. There is no secret sauce. You can blitz Brock Purdy. You can play man coverage against Brock Purdy. He'll drop 4 touchdowns on you, over 250 yards. And guess what? In this game, Chris McCaffrey probably had his worst game as a Niner, and they still put up 42 points on what was supposed to be the best defense in football. I'm sorry. This is the best Niners team I've seen in 30 years, my 27 years of life. This might be the best offense since 1994-95 when they won a Super Bowl and just boat raced the Chargers. Right now, this might be Kyle Shanahan's best team ever. They had 4 takeaways and put up 42 points against the supposed number 3, number 2 best team in the NFC. We're talking about book your trip to Vegas. It's only week 5. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but when you do this on prime time, this makes every other team in the NFL say, oh my goodness, we have our work cut out for us because that team's waiting for us in February.
Yeah. I'm going to read some numbers off to you about the Cowboys defense and about what they gave up today. But first, I want to remind you guys, we want to hear from you all night long here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. Most Niner fans at the game are probably still filing out of Levi's still. But if you want to give us a call, we have the lines wide open for you. 888-957-9570. We want to hear from you all night long. It's Sterling and Grandy with you on Overtime here on 95.7 The Game. That number is also the Comcast Business text line. Again, 888-957-9570. And as always, we're keeping an eye on the Twitch and YouTube chats. Twitch.tv/957thegame, YouTube.com/957thegame, and the Twitch and YouTube chats powered by First NorCal Credit Union. But Sterling, the Cowboys, you mentioned it, 10.25 points allowed per game entering tonight. They allowed 42 points to the San Francisco 49ers. They gave up on average 260 yards per game through the first 4 games of the season. The 49ers put up 421 yards of total offense. Passing yards, Dallas allows on average 148 per game. The 49ers put up 251. It's not a number that absolutely blows you away, but when you consider just how efficient they were, it becomes that much more impressive. Dallas, on average, allows 112 rushing yards per game. And to your point, this was by far Christian McCaffrey's least impactful game of the season, but the Niners still rushed for 170 yards. Jordan Mason had a fantastic game as the second running back without Elijah Mitchell available for this game. In every single facet, the 49ers did something that no other team the Cowboys had played this year came anywhere near close to doing. Now, I know the Cowboys haven't really played a super good team just yet.
They were questioning how good the Cowboys were, saying, are they actually frauds? Chris Collinsworth is like,
and the Cowboys are still, they're a really good football team. I still believe that.
Are they?
I believe that.
Look,
this Niners team is just on a different level.
We heard all week, who the Niners played? Who the Cowboys played?
It's the same argument for both teams.
This was their first test to prove to the NFL that they weren't frauds, and they came in and gave up 42 points on a road game in prime time. The whole world saw the Dallas Cowboys for who they are. The team in prime time who is always going to falter when the moment gets too big. And we saw San Francisco say, this moment is not too big for us, and we're going to drop 42. Brock Purdy was awesome. Christian McCaffrey, not great, but Deebo Samuel was awesome. George Kittle, 3 touchdowns the first time ever in his career, Mark. This was complete annihilation.
Oh, I'm with you. I just still think the Cowboys are a really good football team. It's just the Niners are on a different level. If you think about it, that's a compliment to San Francisco. The fact that I still think Dallas is a really good football team, I mean, it's not a secret. I picked the Dallas Cowboys to win the NFC East entering this season. Now, it doesn't look great right now, considering the Eagles are 5-0 and the Cowboys are now 3-2. Point is, I am very much a believer in the talent that the Cowboys have. Yeah. I think specifically this matchup for them, as we just saw today, as we saw last year in the playoffs, as we saw the year before in the playoffs, it's not their best matchup. But the fact that the 49ers did this to what I at least still believe is a good football team, it's the most impressive performance in the regular season this year when you consider the opponent. Now, you could say the Dolphins putting up 70 against the Broncos. Yeah, whatever. I mean,
couldn't he beat the Jets today?
Yeah, that was bad. In Denver, and the Jets find a way to win. But my question for you and for all the listeners, and again, we see a couple of calls here. CJ and John will get to you in a minute. 888-957-9570. My question for you and the listeners, Sterling, is this the most impressive regular season win of the Kyle Shanahan era? There's certainly a few others you can get to, and I guess it depends how you define impressive. Certainly not the most important because they had win and in regular season games to get into the playoffs in years past. But in terms of quality of opponent, what's at stake in terms of Brock Purdy trying to silence some doubters, right? Like, who have you even played? Well, in steps, not only your rival, but one of the best teams, maybe the best defense in the NFL, and you shellac them. You put up 42 points. You only allow 10. Best defensive performance of the year for the 49ers. You forced 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions. Fred Warner had a hat trick on defense, a sack, a forced fumble, and an interception.
DPOY.
For me, Sterling, this is the most impressive regular season win in the Kyle Shanahan era.
There's games in 2021 against the Rams, winning you're in, losing you're out. Week 17 in Los Angeles, down in SoFi, to the eventual unfortunate Super Bowl winner with the Rams. Then there's the Texans game a couple years ago where Trey Lance comes in and he didn't play tonight. I was hoping you were going to see him. He didn't play. Whatever, but there have been other games, again, like you said, maybe more important to the overall.
But just pure dominance
from
getting your best football for 60 minutes.
San Francisco, and I have no idea what the coin toss was, don't even know what happened at it. San Francisco said, yeah, we'll have our offense that's been questioned through 4 weeks. You played the Steelers and you played the Cardinals.
Give us the ball.
They said, give me the ball. And they're going to drive 7 plays, 75 yards in 3 minutes and 50 seconds and put up 7 points on this defense, then have our defense shut down 3 and out on the Dallas Cowboys offense. From the first drive, from kickoff, San Francisco said, the Dallas Cowboys, you are going to get nothing and you are going to like it.
It was impressive. 42-10. I mentioned George Kittle, 3 catches. They all went for touchdowns. Brock Purdy was 17 for 24, 252 yards, 4 touchdowns. Did not throw an interception, did not turn the ball over. The 49ers did turn the ball over once. Christian McCaffrey fumbled at the goal line. He had 19 carries for 51 yards, got into the end zone once to extend his streak as well. He also caught a couple of passes for 27 yards. But elsewhere, it was a really balanced attack. Ayuk 4 for 58. Deebo Samuel 3 for 55. Kyle Juszczyk, believe it or not, caught 4 passes and got into the end zone. He was stopped just short of the end zone, and then they gave him the very next play as well for an easy 1-yard touchdown catch. Very balanced offensive attack for the 49ers, and it leads to a 42-10 win. All right, let's go to the phones here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. It's Grandy and Sterling with you. 888-957-9570. Up first is CJ in the city. CJ, you're on Overtime here on 95.7 The Game. What did you think of that Niners win tonight?
Wow, I mean, man, the Niners just proved to be, a primetime team, must-watch TV, just can't miss action. And to answer your question, my opinion about the most impressive win in the Kyle Shanahan era was the Saints a regular season game? It was, right?
Oh, that's a good call. It was a regular season game. Yeah.
Jimmy G against Drew Brees.
I think that one for me is up there. But the main reason why I'm calling is because, man, Fred Warner is just looking like he's really putting up a case for a DPOY. I mean, the announcers are talking about, he's performing like a Pro Bowler. I mean, he's performing more than that. He's performing like a DPOY right now. Our defense really stepped up tonight. They played Super Bowl defense. That's the kind of defense they played. That's the kind of defense you need to win a Super Bowl. A defense that can get you turnovers, that can get you quick 3 and outs. And Brock Purdy, man, he's doing his thing. He's processing the defense, and in my opinion, for all the questions about Brock Purdy, I think this game tonight definitely proved a lot of doubts, like you guys said, because the Cowboys were the biggest question coming into this week by everybody outside of the Bay Area, even in the Bay Area. And the Niners, man, they put up a 40 burger, a 40 piece. That's all I got. And man, yeah, shout out Fred Warner, shout out the defense, and have a good night, y'all. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You too, CJ. Good call. I mean, I think he's right about Fred Warner, at least his performance today. 8 tackles, a sack, an interception, and a forced fumble. He also defended one pass, knocked it away, forced an incompletion. He was everywhere. You also pair him with what Dre Greenlaw did. He also had a sack. He had a quarterback hit. He had 2 tackles for loss. He was everywhere. The speed of the Niners linebackers was on display, and I agree 100% with CJ Sterling. This was the Niners' best defensive performance of the season. Dak Prescott, you can say what you want. You think Matthew Stafford's a better quarterback than him. You're probably right. This wasn't the best quarterback the Niners have faced this year, but CeeDee Lamb and Tony Pollard, and you got a speedster in Brandon Cooks. Michael Gallup is certainly a capable wide receiver. This is a good offense. They could put up points on you. The Niners defense absolutely shut them down. 10 points. There was one drive where Dallas really got what they wanted. Yep. Other than that, absolutely nothing the rest of the game, and Fred Warner led the charge.
The Dallas Cowboys came into this game, and I said it, they put the stats on the screen. They've averaged 31 points of offense. They have not. Averaged 20.
As a team, not count. As an offense.
The offense in itself has only averaged 24 points a game. I came in thinking, look, this may be a 10 to 26 or, a 20 to 26 game. San Francisco took the Dallas Cowboys offense, who you can argue has a top 12 quarterback in football, a top 10 running back in football, a top 20 receiver in football, and said, it don't matter what you got. You're going to eat this 10 points and you're going to like it. San Francisco saw blood in the water the minute these Cowboys, got off the plane in their business suits thinking they had a chance, and San Francisco said, nah, watch this. You are going to get nothing, and we're going to send you back to Dallas crying in your cowboy hats. Dak Prescott, we lost. Put in Cooper Rush. Put in Trey Lance. It doesn't matter. This defense, the way they played today, can go toe-to-toe with the Mahomes and the Jalen Hurts. This offense can beat those offenses as well. This was the most complete win, I could argue, of the entire Kyle Shanahan era in San Francisco. They were that good tonight.
Yeah, it's up there. I do like CJ's call, thinking back to that 2019 Saints game.
The Kittle.
That was maybe the most thrilling regular season game of the Shanahan era. The Kittle 4th and 2 conversion.
Like 7 Saints defenders down there.
He drags them for like a 40-yard gain to help them win the game. That was a shootout. Both teams, I think, were in the 40s in that game, 30s or 40s. An incredible win that helped the Niners get home field advantage and a bye in the postseason that year. So, CJ, really great call, great point. That one is up there. I still think this is more impressive because you absolutely blew out one of the better teams in the NFL by 32 points. You did it in front of a national audience on Sunday Night Football. You didn't just win. You embarrassed the Dallas Cowboys. You took their soul. You killed their spirit. That's what the Niners did today.
They quit.
Absolutely. 42-10, an incredibly dominant win for the 49ers. All right, let's get back to the phones here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. It's Grandy and Sterling, 888-957-9570. Let's go to John up next. John, you're on Overtime here on 95.7 The Game. What'd you think of that Niners win?
Grandy, Sterling, first things first. This ain't no John, baby. This ain't no John.
Is this Shamari?
It's your boy Block, man.
Is the block hot?
It's your boy Block.
What's up, Shamari?
Wow.
What's up? Wait, also, shout out to Craig for not recognizing me when I gave him some full BS voice. Hey, this is John. He was like, okay, this is clearly John. This is not Shamari Block. So shout out to Craig for that, man. But a couple of things really quick. I'm going to get in and out. First things first, with my man CJ, that the most impressive win was the one against the Saints where Jimmy Garoppolo threw a 2-yard pass to George Kittle, which he took 40 yards. Everybody's like, what a throw, Jimmy! First, yeah, that's the most impressive win.
Did you just call in to hate on Jimmy Garoppolo, Shamari? Is that what you did?
I did not. I just praised Kittle, man. See, you're taking it as Jimmy Garoppolo. Hey, come on. But second thing second, though, okay? You don't impress me in October. Because 3 weeks ago, the Dolphins dropped 70 on the Broncos, right? Then they go get smashed by the Bills. Bills score 50. Today, the Bills get destroyed by the Jags. Well, not destroyed, but they lose to the Jags in London to Trevor Lawrence and his surfer locks. Okay, so you don't impress me in October. Now, one thing though, and I want you guys to. Here's my question though, okay? Because this is my concern, and I know it's crazy to say you're concerned after 5-0 and you just destroyed the Cowboys by 32 points. However, you should be playing your best ball in December and January. Now, are either of you, even a little bit, because I'm actually a lot concerned, are they peaking too early?
It's an interesting question, Shamari, and thanks for the call.
Dallas Cowboys peaked too early. They're bad tonight.
You could argue the Cowboys peaked week 1 with that win over the Giants.
The Cowboys went from the league's #1 scoring defense to tied for 13th after tonight. San Francisco took this #1 defense and moved them to middle of the pack after tonight.
They've now allowed 41. They've allowed 83 points this season.
Yep,
over 5 games. Yeah, that's average. Average. To answer Shamari's question, I get the idea. I'm not worried about it until December comes around and they lose a game or two. There's nothing to worry about at this point.
There's games on paper you can point to and say that might be tough, but the Browns aren't playing great. Nick Chubb is out, and that stinks for him, but the Bengals aren't playing great football. The Vikings aren't playing great football. Like, this team right now truly doesn't have a game where you point to and say, that's going to be a tough-fought win, maybe until Seattle in, week 12. Then after that, it's Philadelphia, then Seattle again. There's really only a 3-game stretch, which is tough, where I point to and say that could be a stretch where they lose maybe 2 games. But right now, with the way they're playing, 17-0. Why not?
Well, and why not? A danger of sounding like a biased 49ers fan who's seeing the world through red and gold goggles, right? A danger of saying that, would you say I'm wrong in saying that the Niners have consistently played their best football so far this season?
Yeah. They're 10-0 with Brock Purdy.
You think they played a lot of the story through this game
might be
there was the fumble at the goal line, whatever. It didn't impact the game. Okay, maybe you get 49 instead of 42. Okay, you played Sam Darnold.
Shanahan's got some clock management stuff still, but that's always going to exist, unfortunately.
But, the story for the first 4 weeks was this team is leaving a lot out there still.
Yeah.
And they still were 4-0 and really hadn't had a dangerous snap yet in their season.
And you hate to say this, but Sam Darnold played almost the entire fourth quarter.
Yeah.
They could have put 50 up against 60 against this team.
This game is separate than the first 4, but I think you take the first 5 weeks as a whole, I would argue the Niners haven't played their best football consistently yet this season. So, if I'm to answer Shamari's question, no, I'm not worried about them peaking yet because I don't think we haven't consistently seen their peak just yet. As scary as that is, considering they're 5-0 and again haven't trailed in the second half of a game.
Why can't we just relish in this win? Without
I'm
looking ahead to week number 6.
I'm with you.
But that being said, they have played 3 straight home games, go on the road and beat some road teams.
Against a really good defense coming up to the Browns.
And so, there may be some things to point to and say, well, they haven't done this just yet or haven't done it in 4 weeks, 3 weeks. So, yeah, but guess what? It's Sunday night. They don't play until next Sunday morning. Right now, we are cherishing and relishing in the San Francisco 49ers taking it to the Dallas Cowboys, which might be the best win every year if we can get one of those. Beat them 42-10.
Yeah.
This team peaked for 3 quarters tonight, and that fourth quarter there were backups in. This may be their best 3 quarters of play the entire year.
Oh, I agree with you.
Of any team that's played so far. Maybe the Dolphins, whatever.
It's hard to ignore the 70 point. I'm with you. I get what you're saying. On the YouTube chat, powered by First NorCal Credit Union, wanted to shout out Rakib. Rakib, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. A super chat, $10. Rakib says he's driving back to Orange County from the game, and we said it last week. This team is on a collision course with Philadelphia. Niners are the best team in the league. What a game, Rakib. We really appreciate it. Again, that's on the YouTube chat, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Niners are certainly looking like the best team in the NFL through 5 weeks. They've been incredible. Let's go back to the phones here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game, 888-957-9570. Up next is Brad. He's on the bridge, wants to talk about this Niners win. Brad, what's up? You're on Overtime with Sterling and Grandy.
Good evening, gentlemen. Yeah, can we just say that, wow, that honestly, to answer the question about Shanahan's best win, every season is different, but that was a statement win tonight.
Mm-hmm.
That they put the NFL on red alert. I don't even know what Jamari's talking about, whether we're peaking. We left meat on the bone. We're not even done yet. I mean, they shut it down with 10 minutes left in the fourth. I mean, they could have really mollywopped them and put a 50-piece on them. I mean, honestly, at this point, there is nobody better than the Niners. They are a super team. They remind me of the Golden State Warriors when Kevin Durant was there. You can't guard everybody. And they have Pro Bowlers on the offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball. They just went out there and said, Dallas, we're taking your lunch money and we're not giving it back to you. Thanks for taking my call, guys.
Yeah, Brad, good call. Appreciate you tuning in here to Overtime on 95.7 The Game. I agree with Brad. I mean, I think it was something I said a couple of weeks ago, perhaps after the Rams game. Actually, I think it was after Thursday Night Football, the win over the Giants, which was a little more of a blowout. And the Niners, this Niners team is reminding me of that era of Golden State Warriors basketball where Steph Curry wouldn't play in fourth quarters because the team was up by 40 points. What this team, that's the closest thing that I have to compare this team to is arguably the best basketball team in NBA history. That's what the comparison is.
Isn't this not the fourth game Sam Darnold's gotten snaps in because they're beating teams so bad? Pittsburgh,
Week 1 against the Steelers, not against the Rams. Giants, Cardinals,
this game.
Pretty sure.
The fact that of all the quarterbacks, of all the teams, this team is actively getting their backup quarterback in to take, and tonight was like almost the entire quarter of reps.
Man.
But Sam Darnold was getting reps, now meaningless reps, mind you, but the fact that Sam Darnold's getting a full quarter of meaningless reps against the number one defense in football.
He was 1 for 1 with 1 yard.
And -1 rushing
There
yard.
we go, Sam. Attaboy. Good
But
work.
it's like, you're right, like this feels like a super team. Like the caller said, this is a super team now. Yes, you have to finish the job. We've seen LeBron James, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, and they lose the first one. It happens. You have to finish the job. For the WWE fans, Cody Rhodes, I want to finish the story. San Francisco has to finish the story and hold that Lombardi in February. But right now, week 5, folks, that Dallas star has been trampled on, stomped on. T.O.'s in the middle of the field saying, come get me. Right now, we're 5-0, and one of 2 teams still undefeated saying, hey, Philadelphia, week 13, we got your number.
I mean it when I say that the Cowboys have a Niners problem. It's not just that the 49ers clearly look like the better team. The Niners beat them in the postseason in 2021. Or in the 2022 playoffs at the end of the 2021 season, but in the 2022 playoffs.
With the botch snap.
Yeah, in the
the spike.
in the 2023 playoffs, this most recent year at Levi's.
Where Zeke's playing center.
And there's no one else around him, and they snap the ball, and then it all goes to hell from that point on.
Can I call them frauds?
The Cowboys?
Yeah.
You can call them whatever you want. I don't have to agree.
Can we do a little cheer? Frauds, frauds. Come on, Mark. They came in and this was their chance to make a point.
I think they're a good football team.
In big moments, are they, though?
Okay, that's where I think I would agree with you.
That's what separates the good from the frauds. The great from the frauds. The elite from the frauds.
Okay. I mean, I just don't like the word fraud.
Why? Why not?
I think the Dallas Cowboys are a good football team, and that's a compliment to the 49ers. But I agree. It does seem, and this is maybe more of a knock on Dak than anyone else.
Yeah.
He seems to shrivel up in the big moments. It's just kind of what happens. That's what the Niners are saying right now.
But Dak tonight, 14 of 24, 153 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 picks, sacked 3 times, a rating of 51.6. He sucked. I hate saying that so harshly. He wasn't good.
He was bad.
Dak Prescott may have performed as any quarterback San Francisco has played through 5 weeks, may have been the worst one. Josh Dobbs played better than him last week. Josh Dobbs didn't throw a pick. Kenny Pickett, maybe the other worst one. Dak Prescott may have been the worst quarterback.
Kenny Pickett and Daniel Jones did not play well.
But they didn't turn the ball over.
But the larger point, and maybe your point is, okay, the Niners haven't played an elite quarterback yet. But the larger point is, even though this Niners defense before tonight hadn't really played, I think, their A game, they're still making a lot of these quarterbacks look average at the very best, but generally below average like Dak tonight.
They're making bad quarterbacks look awful. They're making average quarterbacks look bad. They're making good quarterbacks look average, and they're making great quarterbacks look good. They're taking quarterbacks, everyone they face, down a step.
They haven't yet played a great
quarterback
yet.
No, but who are they going to play? It's great. Hurts,
Jalen,
Joe Burrow with the calf injury. They're not going to play the elite quarterback that certain fans or the national media wants them to play. They're not going to face that player until week 13 unless Joe Burrow starts lighting things up. It's not as if San Francisco is going to play that one quarterback you point to and say, that guy's going to beat you themselves. It's Hurts and nobody else in the NFC.
Yeah.
But I could argue now it's Hurts and Brock Purdy.
Regardless of how you feel about future quarterbacks coming up the first 4 weeks of the season, you can't argue this was the Niners' most complete performance of the year. 42-10, the score over the Dallas Cowboys. The Niners now 5-0. Dallas falls to 3-2. Let's go back to the phones here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. 888-957-9570. That's also the Comcast Business text line. Up next is Robin in the city. Robin, what's up? 42-10. What do you think of that?
So here's what I think. I usually push back on a lot of glory, but I'm going to relish this right now. I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah, Robin.
Let's get it.
I'm going to tell you why for me. Because I always question the Niners being able to win in the trenches. And yes, the flash is the quarterback and the receivers and all that, but the Niners tonight kicked ass in the trenches, baby. Okay? They did. Okay? That blocking, that containing of Michael Parsons. Did you see McCaffrey out there blocking? For me, that's they came to play, baby. They came to play tonight, and they were focused. You win football games against good defensive teams, whether we don't think Dallas is good or not, in the trenches, okay? And whether it was hyped or overhyped or overrated about their defense, we whooped ass on both sides of the line in trenches. That is where football is won, baby. Love it. Love you too. Bye, guys.
Yeah, shout out, Robin. Thanks for the call.
I was waiting for the Pookie in them.
She's right, though. I mean, this wasn't just a flashy Niners win where you dominate a team with 40-yard bombs downfield, McCaffrey going crazy, Deebo Samuel breaking all these tackles. This wasn't – there was flash and there was substance, but this was pure domination at the trenches on the offensive and defensive line. The Niners were all over Dak Prescott. They absolutely dominated the Cowboys' offensive line, which is a pretty good offensive line. They controlled it.
Probably the second best in the NFC, maybe?
Yeah, behind the Eagles. Eagles probably far and away the best offensive line in the league, but Cowboys...
And the Niners got 4 sacks tonight?
Bosa had half a one early, but it was really all his doing. Armstead came up and helped them clean up at the end. But Bosa had a sack. Bosa and Armstead had half a sack. Also, it was Warner and Greenlaw each with the sack, and then there was one other, right?
Look, Kevin Givens. He had a sack tonight.
He also recovered a fumble. Kevin Givens. He recovered the fumble that Fred Warner punched out. He did the peanut punch.
Fred Warner, man.
He was everywhere tonight.
I feel like sometimes, because we hear Bosa's name so much and they just signed Hargrave and the offense gets so much of the media attention, I feel like Fred Warner sometimes is underappreciated. Yes, like us here in the Bay, we know Fred Warner as the best linebacker in football, but I feel like ESPN and Fox and whoever else, they need to talk about this guy. He is the best linebacker in football, and it's not even close. He is all-pro, number one. He makes huge plays almost every single day, whether it's punching a ball out for a fumble or getting an interception or being amazing in coverage. Last year, playoffs, running right next to, side by side with CeeDee Lamb, one of the fastest guys in the league. Tonight, huge plays, CMC fumbles, boom, fumble right back for our team. Like Fred Warner right now, to me, again, you can point to Micah Parsons, who had 0 sacks tonight, 0 quarterback hits tonight, and San Francisco took him out of the game. He was not involved in the game at all. Fred Warner was the star on defense.
He was. 8 tackles. He had a sack. He had a quarterback hit. He had an interception, and he forced a fumble. It was a big fumble recovered by Kevin Givens, who, as you mentioned, also had a sack tonight.
Givens and taken.
For the 40. It's a good one. Thanks. Not bad. I like that. You got to laugh out of me. Dibbs likes that one too. Yeah. All right. Let's go back to the phones here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. If you're leaving Levi's Stadium, we want to hear from you. 888-957-9570. It's also the Comcast Business text line. You can also hit us up by visiting Twitch and YouTube. Those chats powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Up next is Justin in Concord. Justin, you want to talk about the quarterback, Brock Purdy. What'd you think of the Niners today, Justin?
Oh, my gosh. It's Joseph, not Justin.
Sorry about that, Joseph.
I feel great. No, you're all good. I feel great. This was a game that I had as a loss at the beginning of the season. I was like, oh, they might lose to the Cowboys. They might lose to the Eagles. But look at this. I'm just excited that hopefully this shuts the haters up about Brock Purdy because this dude was electric. I mean, the passes he was making was insane. No one else is making those kinds of passes in the NFL like that. I mean, four touchdowns he threw for. I mean, 3 to George Kittle with the double reverse play down the sideline. It was gorgeous. This man has an amazing IQ in the pocket and is able to sit there and not freak out. Good pass, which you don't see a lot in the NFL nowadays. And it was great to see the Niners beat the Cowgirls. And they're going to do it again in the postseason. It was really, really good to see and to watch.
Hey, Justin, I mean, a Niners-Cowboys matchup in the playoffs for a third straight year. That'd be fun.
Is it wrong for me to say it's not going to happen?
I mean, the Cowboys got to get there, right?
Because of frauds.
We'll see. We'll see.
They'll make the playoffs. They'll be like the fifth seed, and we'll sit here and say...
Well, they were last year as well.
And guess what? They'll lose again.
Yeah,
Want to know why? Because of frauds. They're frauds.
Who'd they beat in the... They got the
Tom Brady Buccaneers.
They got the NFC South winner.
Awful at the end of last year. The Dallas Cowboys in big moments are not good with Dak Prescott.
I mean, either the Cowboys or the Seahawks are going to get the NFC South winner again this year because that's just the way it goes.
Well, Craig thinks Baker Mayfield's the next coming of Tom Brady, so right? Right, Craig?
For when you're a hater, you need to stop out.
We don't even need to entertain that. We don't need any Baker Mayfield talk here on Overtime.
He said they're going to win the next 7 games and be 10-7 to end the year.
NFC South leaders 3-1. Yeah, let it go.
Okay.
Call them when you're 5-0, Craig.
Which is
never
impossible. Can't happen this year because they already have a loss. All right, you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube. Powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Something our last caller mentioned at the very top there was...
Joseph or Justin?
Joseph.
Okay.
Yeah. Joseph in Concord, I think. Joseph in Concord. Said that he initially, to start the season, thought this was going to be a loss.
I could see that.
That's where I just absolutely, once the schedule came out, Sunday Night Football, at home, Dallas Cowboys, absolutely no way I thought the Niners were ever losing this game. The Niners don't lose primetime games at home.
Well, they lost against Green Bay 2 years ago. But
okay.
I'm not trying to bring it down. I'm just saying the fact.
They have a very good record in primetime games at home. And again, the Niners have the Cowboys number. I never at once thought the Niners were going to lose this game.
If they have a rematch, everyone's going to pick San Francisco. No one's going to say, well, those Dallas Cowboys, they might have a chance. It'll be, seriously? Come on. The Dallas Cowboys? Come on. Like, the Dallas Cowboys, again, they're a fine team. They'll make the playoffs. But as a team who wanted to come in and they had to prove something tonight, not just to San Francisco, but the entire world, that they are not frauds. And what did they do?
No, I don't think it's about that.
They're 3-2.
I don't think it's about them proving to the world they're frauds. I think it's about them proving to themselves, we can beat this Niners team. They have to believe in themselves.
Man.
I mean, you heard the way Dak talked about it. Jerry Jones
Don't piss me off.
Jerry Jones complimenting the 49ers this week? What world are we living in? That's not how Jerry Jones works. The Dallas Cowboys came into this game believing they were not on the same planet as the 49ers, that they could not compete, and guess what happened? They got mollywopped 42-10. All of their suspicions were proven true. The Cowboys cannot compete with the 49ers. It's what they thought. It's what Dak was telling us based on how he handled his media availabilities this week. Jerry Jones complimented the Niners. That never happens. The Niners have the Cowboys number, and before Dallas has to deal with how the national media thinks about them, they got to prove to themselves they belong. Because right now it's clear they don't.
What do you think that conversation on Monday morning's practice is? Well, guys, we're not a very good team. We kind of stink, and Niners have our number. They're in our heads. We're demoralized. Like, that conversation, like, that film room of, hey, Dak, here's what you did wrong. It's going to be every single play of the game besides one pass.
They've got to be sick of Dak by now.
Well, that's why Trey Lance is there.
I mean,
whoa,
inactive today, right?
Emergency quarterback. There were chants for Trey to play. They said, we want Trey. We want Trey.
I would have loved to see that.
You know how great that would have been now? Meaningless minutes, meaningless reps, but imagine Sam Darnold playing against Trey Lance on the Cowboys and Niners. Imagine that as the fourth quarter begins, and you're just like, wow. It's like training camp all over again. Insane. But what's, like, going back to Robin's point, San Francisco from the jump said, whether it was drafting players, when Shanahan and Lynch first got here, they were going to build from the trenches out. They wouldn't get Bosa. They wouldn't get Hargrave this past offseason. Keep Armstead. Go and draft Drake Jackson. Bring in a plethora of other people. Go and acquire Trent Williams. Draft Aaron Banks, Burford, Brandon McKivitz. They want to just beat you to death almost and break you and bruise you and just hammer you from the trenches and make you say, Coach, I'm hurt. I can't go back out there. They're beating me too bad, Coach. You got the Band-Aids. Please, wrap me up. Give me some ice. And San Francisco took it to one of the best teams on paper coming into this game.
Do you remember the story that Kyle Shanahan told after they acquired McCaffrey at the deadline last year? And
Tell me.
It's about what you're talking about. The Niners' plan, Shanahan and Lynch's plan when they took over was build from the trenches. So the McCaffrey draft, what year was that?
2017?
2017. That was early in the Shanahan tenure. The team was very bad. That was the Trubisky trade back. The Bears trade up to number 2. They take Trubisky. Niners take Solomon Thomas, number 3 overall. That was the McCaffrey went, like 7th to the Panthers? Shanahan said after they acquired Christian McCaffrey, we wanted to take you, Christian, with the 3rd pick or the 2nd pick or whatever pick they had.
Yeah.
We wanted to take you that year, but we weren't ready. We needed an offensive line. We needed the defensive lines. They wanted to build from the trenches. Now, he could just be full of you-know-what, saying a story after they acquired him to make it sound all good. But I mean, it would line up with the strategy of what the 49ers had to begin the Shanahan and Lynch era. You obviously want stars offensively.
Right.
They believed, at least it seems, that McCaffrey could be that. Now, did they think he was going to be this good? Who knows? But Shanahan did say we wanted to take him, but we felt like we weren't ready just yet. And the plan was to eventually acquire him. And guess what? They acquired him.
So what you're saying is Shanahan's plan all along was to take Solomon Thomas, have him be a bust, Reuben Foster, have him be a bust, and say, one day we'll get you, Christian. Don't worry. Is that what you're saying?
He's playing chess, not checkers, Sterling.
3D chess.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Are you upset they didn't go for 50 against this team? I'm a little upset.
49 would have been nice.
49ers, 49.
Exactly. It doesn't really bother me that much.
I wanted 50. Maybe it's just me being, I want to expose. We already did expose the Cowboys, but just rub it in their face. Pull a Pete Carroll at USC against Harbaugh at Stanford. Just run him into the ground.
Imagine Sam Darnold leads the offense down the field and puts up a touchdown.
Hey, man. There's no ghost in San Francisco, okay?
Oh, hey, he completed his only pass today, 1 for 1 for 1 yard.
I think he has the highest comp percentage on the team.
Okay.
Mark 100%.
All right, no. We're going back to the phones. We're going back to the phones.
That's why he's the GOAT.
On Overtime on 95.7 The Game, 888-957-9570. That's also the Comcast Business text line. Up next is Matthew. He's leaving Levi's right now. Matthew, you were inside the building at Levi's Stadium. What'd you think of that Niners win? You're on Overtime.
Oh, it was great. It was amazing. We thought it was going to be a slugfest, but the Niners came out and just dominated. I'm glad that Purdy, these guys aren't throwing the balls to themselves. I want to hear a little more respect for Purdy. This guy is amazing. He's shown that he's an elite quarterback from day one. So I don't know, but they look like a complete team. And in my opinion, they're not peaking yet. They're just getting started.
Yeah. No, Matthew, I mean, I agree. Brock Purdy was phenomenal today, and we'll talk a lot about Brock Purdy coming up. We can get into it a little bit here. I do want to throw out the question we led off with earlier. Is this the most impressive regular season win in the Kyle Shanahan era? 888-957-9570. Certainly, I could also throw out this question. Is this Brock Purdy's best performance as a pro? I mean, you think back to all of his regular season starts and the games in the playoffs in which he completed the game were wins. All of those games were wins. What game maybe gave him the most trouble? It was this Cowboys team in the playoffs last year. That was the most out of sync the Niners offense has looked with Brock Purdy as their quarterback in his career, again, which is a relatively short career. But that's the one that stands out as, that got a little hairy there towards the end. I mean, the team was down, didn't put up many points. They didn't even break 20 in that game, did they?
19.
19? Yeah. So, I mean, this was the defense that gave him the most fits last year. He comes out, he leads the offense to 42 points. You look at his numbers, 17 for 24, 252, 4 touchdowns, 3 of them to his tight end, George Kittle. He also found his fullback, Kyle Juszczyk, for a touchdown. Is this Brock Purdy's best performance as a pro? I think it's got to be.
Imagine going 20 for 21 last week, scoring, 2 touchdowns against the Cardinals, having a 95.2 rating, setting, I believe, the franchise record, and with the 4th highest passer rating of all time, I believe. Then playing the Dallas Cowboys defense, which the Cardinals team held to 16 points a couple weeks ago. Coming into this week, on the first drive to score a touchdown, end up putting 4 touchdowns on the board, and every question we had about Brock Purdy, wait till he plays a good defense. Wait till he faces the Dallas Cowboys secondary and their ferocious, vicious pass rush. He said, it's not. Who cares? Dallas who? Micah Parsons who? Like, every time a defense thinks they have the game plan to stop Brock Purdy, you know what he does? He beats them, puts up 20. In this case, every game so far, put up 30 against them. Right now, it's only been, 13 games so far, 10 regular season wins for Brock Purdy. I could argue there is yet to be a game plan constructed to stop Brock Purdy. Even on his worst day, not bad. He's been fine, good enough to win. I have not seen a defense been able to stop Brock Purdy the 13 games, 14 games he's played. Everything blitzing, playing man coverage, zone coverage, he tends to put up 30 points every time, whether it's a near perfect passer rating, whether it's a near perfect completion percentage. Brock Purdy seems to come out better and better and better each week. There's deep throws down the field. Every touchdown tonight, over 10 plus yards. Whoa, what are the air yards? 10 plus yards on every single touchdown. Brock Purdy is defying the odds, and I can argue right now, he might be the best quarterback in football through 5 weeks of this season. I'm
talking purely statistical.
I'm not talking he's better than Mahomes, I'm just saying when it comes to statistics, Brock Purdy might be the best performing quarterback in the entire NFL.
He's up there, for sure.
He's at least top 5.
I agree.
At least.
Best first 5 weeks. That's what we're arguing here.
That's a good way to put it.
Not who's the best quarterback.
Right.
Not who would you pick to win one. You're picking Patrick Mahomes. You're picking Josh Allen. You're picking Justin Herbert. Josh Allen,
maybe
not great
Josh
today.
Allen.
But you get what I'm saying.
Yikes.
There's different ways to come at this argument, and the argument you're making that I agree with, Brock Purdy through 5 weeks, a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He has performed one of the 5 best quarterbacks through 5 weeks this season.
Take it further.
There's no doubt.
You have a game to win tomorrow. Let's say it's tomorrow. You need one quarterback to win you the game.
I'm picking Patrick Mahomes.
The next guy, who is that? Probably Brock Purdy. He hasn't lost a game. Again,
what team do I get? Am I picking?
It doesn't matter. you need a quarterback to win. I'm not saying he's the most physically gifted quarterback. I'm saying what he does right now is he hasn't lost a game, Mark. He put up 4 touchdowns against the number 1 rated defense, took them from the number 1 scoring defense in football to number 13. The Niners' defense now is the number 1 scoring defense in football. Their offense is the number 2 scoring offense in football, averaging over 30 points a game.
I get you. I get it.
Just saying, Mark, anyone, I don't care if you're national media, a Cowboy fan, a Niner fan, if you are somehow trying to take anything away from Brock Purdy, get off the train now.
Okay, so are you saying you don't know your team or whatever?
No, just pick a quarterback.
You're picking Mahomes first. Are you picking Brock
Probably.
Purdy second?
Right now, maybe.
Give me an answer. Yes or no?
It's either Hurts or Purdy. And that's
Okay,
and that's no tush push allowed.
Look, I can disagree with you. The fact that this is even a conversation, it blows my mind. Like,
Is Brock Purdy elite? I mean, these are conversations we have to have now.
there's just always this hesitancy,
Right.
Because he's playing like an elite quarterback.
So what does that make
So
him, Mark?
that makes him an elite quarterback.
Look at that! The San Francisco 49ers might have their first elite quarterback since Steve Young.
It's wild.
We're so blessed.
Wild. This dude was an unknown a year ago at this point in time. It's crazy. All
And
right.
he's out there boat racing fools and suckers in Dallas.
Oh, man.
Man, I'm pumped, Mark. I'm pumped.
Let's go back to the phones. I know Jose wants to talk about Brock Purdy. 888-957-9570. Jose in Virginia. You're on Overtime with Grandy and Sterling. What'd you think of Brock Purdy in that Niners win tonight, Jose?
Hey, what's up, man? I just wanted to ask you guys a question about what else does he have to do to prove that he's a great quarterback? Because I'm still hearing the rhetoric about he's a system quarterback. People make excuses about, oh, he has weapons besides his talent. And I don't know. Like, I bought his jersey on December 11th, 2022 after they beat the Bucks. Because I don't care what you say. You can't throw a rookie in there and beat the Miami Dolphins like they did that year. And I just don't get it. Like, what else does he have to do? Like, this is a perfect conversation because you guys are fighting over if he's elite or not. Like, I would definitely pick him over Hurts.
Wow. Okay, Jose. I mean, he was early on the Brock bandwagon after his first start, bought his jersey. Jose, an early believer in Brock Purdy.
The fact that
And he's looking like he was right.
picking Brock Purdy over Jalen Hurts technically through 5 weeks isn't even a hot take. It's insane.
Hurts has not been good throwing the ball this year.
No.
He has not been.
I cannot think. I know Willard said right now Brock Purdy's playing better than Mahomes, but he is. Mahomes was not great today. 2 touchdowns, like 220 yards, whatever it was, against Minnesota's defense, who's not good. Won by 7 points in that game. Like, Mahomes, the greatest quarterback in the last, 5 years, right?
Yes, no doubt.
Brock Purdy right now outplaying him. There is no Tom Brady in the way. I'm not saying Purdy's Tom Brady or whatever. I'm just saying that right now, Brock Purdy, you have to put him in the conversation of the Mahomes and the Allens and the Hurts. Like, you have to. You cannot say, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. You have to. You have to do it, Mark. It's Tua, it's Allen, it's Mahomes, it's Brock Purdy.
Okay, so the conversation last week after McCaffrey 4 touchdowns was Christian McCaffrey for MVP, right?
Yeah.
If he somehow keeps up his 4-game pace.
Then he fumbled.
And then he fumbled. Guess what? The McCaffrey MVP
It's
campaign.
over.
So is the conversation now? I mean, generally speaking, Sterling,
Say it.
the MVP
Ask it.
goes to a top 2 seed in either conference
Who has that right
and
now?
that quarterback. So is Brock Purdy through 5 weeks your MVP?
Bingo! Bango! Brock Purdy for MVP, Mark. I don't know who else can you pick? Maybe Tua, but he lost to the Bills, and there's some games doesn't. I like Tua. Without the speed on that offense, that's an entirely different team. We're putting Tua in top 5, top 6 category. You take away the speed of that offense, that's a different team entirely. And I like Tua. That same conversation, if you want to apply it to Brock Purdy, I can say Brock Purdy, with the Dolphins' offense, is still putting up 70 points. Like, come on.
Can I want to get away from the Purdy elite, Purdy MVP guy. Like,
You're just a hater, Mark.
no, I'm just not super comfortable making all these.
But why? No one's saying in a shootout you need one quarterback. It's Mahomes and Purdy. Mahomes is going to lose and Purdy's going to win. No one's saying that.
I just want to focus a little bit more on the specifics. Like, for me, I don't really care what the national perspective is.
Right, I get that.
If some
no one
schmuck
wants to hear about Brock Purdy, right?
Some schmuck, Mike
So
Florio.
dumb,
I don't care what
dude.
Mike
So
Florio
dumb.
thinks. Stephen Ariza, the Ringer. I don't
I'm so
care.
happy before you had to watch Brock Purdy drop 4 touchdowns on this Dallas.
On the network that he works
sit there
for.
And watch and say, Brock Purdy, 4 touchdowns, someone's 250 yards, whatever. I'm happy. He's a clown.
If you missed it, Stephen Reeves of The Ringer ranked Brock Purdy as the 25th best quarterback in the NFL. I don't care. I don't care what the opinion is nationally. I don't care what someone in Philadelphia thinks, someone in Dallas thinks, someone in Buffalo, someone in I don't care. What I care about is what Purdy looked like in this game today, and he was incredible today. And I would argue, Sterling, again, I already said this is the best game of his career. First drive of the second half. The best drive of Brock Purdy's career. He was absolutely incredible. And by the way, down an offensive lineman. Aaron Banks was out. John Feliciano in
bicep injury.
We can talk a little bit more about that later. I'm sure Kyle Shanahan will give us an update that we'll get to you. John Feliciano in on the offensive line for Aaron Banks. After a false start, 1st and 15, Brock Purdy, a perfect throw to a crossing Ayuk, just over the outstretched arm of the linebacker Leighton Vander Esch. Then the very next play, a great throw again to Ayuk down the left sideline. But guess what? Called back because of a hold on Spencer Burford. Later on, it sets up a 3rd and 14 after the hold and a short run. Debo, a deep crosser on the money for 43 yards. And then guess what he does? He throws a perfect touch pass over the top of the defense for a touchdown to George Kittle. He went 4 for 4 with 83 yards, and that didn't do it justice because maybe the best throw of the drive got taken away because of a holding. 4 for 4 for 83 yards. Purdy was fantastic today. The best he's looked, the best game I've ever seen from him. But that specific drive, first drive of the second half for Brock Purdy, it put the Niners ahead 28-10. That's when Dak gave up. That's when the Cowboys knew this game was over. That's when they realized they have a Niners problem. That drive, the best stretch in Brock Purdy's career.
Even then, to start the game, first drive, Brock Purdy 4 for 4, 43 yards, 1 touchdown. Kind of takes momentum away from Dallas, breaks their defense early, makes the offense have to come out and prove themselves against San Francisco's defense. And like you said, first drive of the second half, what does he do again? 4 for 4, 83 yards, 1 touchdown. He broke the defense in the first drive, making them say, oh, kind of shocked. In the second half, Dallas thinks they have momentum. It's a relatively close game. We're sitting there on the couch in the studio saying, why are we not trying to score more points, Shanahan? Let's blow this thing out the water. Keep going. Put your foot on the pedal.
I wanted them to be aggressive at the end of the first half.
And then they just flaked it away. But
I mean, ultimately, it seemed like the right decision, considering they won 42-10.
It would have been 49 there. But Purdy broke the Dallas Cowboys defense in the first drive of the game, put them on their heels, made their offense have to answer. They didn't. First drive of the second half, Dallas thinks they might have some momentum. They're feeling themselves a little bit. What does Purdy do? He said, oh, watch this. Here's 4 amazing throws. One of them doesn't even count, his 5th one. Goes 83 yards on the number 1 defense in football coming into this game, quote unquote. Puts up a touchdown and breaks their spirits. Brock Purdy, got to give him a new nickname, Mark. I'm gonna think about it, but it might be.
Oh, I thought you had something.
Nah, dude, I'm not that smart. You gotta relax.
You can't throw that out there and then not have.
It's called the tease. You gotta tease the listener a little bit.
All right, we'll go to the phones. Let you think about it a little bit more.
It's gonna be a long thinking session for a second.
888-957-9570. The Niners knock off the Dallas Cowboys 42-10. If you're leaving Levi's Stadium after what seemed like a raucous night at Levi's down in Santa Clara on Sunday Night Football, we want to hear from you. 888-957-9570. Up next is Paul. Paul, you were at the game. What'd you think of Brock Purdy tonight? Paul, you're on overtime with Grandy and Sterling.
Yeah, thanks, guys. My son Pat and I were just driving back from the game here. We were actually, our last game that we attended in person was a year ago when he started versus the Bucks.
Wow.
We got a 1 year track record on him, right? The record speaks for itself. The way he plays, right? Precision passes up the middle, up in the seams here. I mean, this guy is the best new quarterback found since Patrick Mahomes. Let's just kind of accept it. Now, these national talking heads, ESPN, Fox, this is going to be a big problem for them, right? I mean, they spend their whole year talking, yip-yapping on who's the best, and here is Mr. Irrelevant, coming and just
slaying each and one of their favorite boys here. So we'll see. I don't think he's going to get that respect from the national media until he wins the Super Bowl. And even then, you see, maybe it's McCaffrey and all. Guys, we had our little preview of who's the MVP. It's called the championship game last year. So thanks for giving us the time.
Yeah, of course, Paul. Good call. I mean, that was a little different considering the backup quarterback in that game was Josh Johnson, but 100%. I mean, you saw when Brock Purdy went out and how that game immediately turned. That's the case for just about every single quarterback injury in the NFL, but I get Paul's point. What I think, and I've heard this nationally a little bit, it makes sense. I'm not sure it's necessarily fair, but the perspective is, the idea is, Brock Purdy could be a really good quarterback, but he also has the best set of offensive weapons around him. He has perhaps the best offensive play caller with him. Now, that shouldn't be a knock on Purdy, but the thought is, we're not going to crown him, and this isn't my opinion. This is, I think, the national opinion. We're not going to crown this guy until he does something like this. He continues to play this well when he doesn't have perhaps the best situation in the NFL. And generally, how does that happen? It's when a quarterback on a rookie deal signs their first mega contract, and suddenly you don't have room for all this other star talent elsewhere. So I think that's when the test will come in terms of Brock Purdy nationally. I don't believe that necessarily. But if you are worried about the national perspective, the national opinion, Sterling, I think that's what a lot of people are holding out for. What are the Niners with Brock Purdy 3 years from now when he's on a gigantic contract? When perhaps they don't have Ayuk, maybe they don't have Kittle, Trent Williams is like, what does the team look like then? I could not care less about that right now. The Niners have a chance to win a Super Bowl right now. Brock Purdy's on a rookie deal. That is allowing all of this talent to still be here. But I think if I were to pinpoint like a fork in the road when things change an opinion on him, I think it's that when he signs his first big contract, because that time is coming. It's still a couple of years out for the 49ers, but I think that's when opinions would really change nationally. Now, again, I don't really care about that, but that's my thought on this.
Well, that's not going to happen till 2025, I believe.
It's not even contractually. It can't even be thought about.
Exactly.
Not this year and not next year.
So they got essentially 2 3/4 years of Brock Purdy on a rookie deal, still making like $840,000.
The biggest bargain in the NFL. Not even close.
He needs to eat free wherever he goes. He don't have to win a championship or nothing. Just give him a steak somewhere.
What was the report this week that he's still living with a roommate?
Yeah.
Is that a real report?
Oh, yeah. He had 2 last year. It's him and Nick Sakel.
I mean, he's still making a pretty nice chunk of change. I know rent, especially in the South Bay, isn't great. But
he's getting married soon. He'll probably move out then. I would assume so.
Yeah, probably.
He's living a life. He's getting married. He's a quarterback of the Niners.
And he's now the spokesperson for NorCal Toyota. You see that? You see that spot on Sunday Night Football? Man,
I want to see him with like
he's
national Gatorade commercials.
Hey, if he keeps this up,
maybe Nick Wright will finally buy into him and stop saying that I would take Geno Smith over Brock Purdy. No, you wouldn't. Yeah. And if you do, you're a liar. Mark, I know that you may not care as to what the national media says about him, but as a Niner fan who is watching this happen and has watched this happen every single game for, 14, 13 games now, it's tiring to see a quarterback not get the respect he deserves. Brock Purdy, through 5 weeks, statistically, has been the best quarterback in football.
Yep.
You can't deny it.
I'm not arguing with you.
I'm not saying you are. I'm hoping Nick Wright's listening. Because I dare you to go on TV tomorrow and say, I'd still take Geno Smith. If you do, just stop. Nobody would. Seattle wouldn't. Would only one team, maybe 2. 2 teams, 3 teams tops might say, I wouldn't trade my quarterback for Brock Purdy.
That's maybe. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
Man, I don't know.
It's weird. We got to hit a break. About halfway done here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. We'll keep going after this. I see you callers lining up. Calvin, Steve, Grandpa Daddy will come to you guys on the way next. It's Overtime here on 95.7 The Game with Sterling and Grandy. More coming up next as the Niners knock off the Cowboys 42-10 here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game.
Now through October 29th at Big O Tires, get a $70 rebate on all passenger or light truck Michelin tires. Plus, get an additional $70 rebate on installation of select sets of 4 Michelin tires. See this week's offer and more at bigotires.com.
Overtime continues here on 95.7. The game after the 49ers 42-10 win over the Dallas Cowboys. The Niners stay perfect in 2023, 5-0. They hand the Cowboys their second loss of the year. They're now 3-2. That highlight you just heard, Mike Tirico on NBC on Sunday Night Football. It was George Kittle's second of 3 touchdowns and perhaps the most creative play call of the evening. Sterling, George Kittle, 38-yard touchdown catch from Brock Purdy. It was a handoff to Christian McCaffrey moving left to right, and then a reverse, the reverse on the pitch back to Deebo Samuel, who then pitches it even further back on the flea flicker to Brock Purdy, who puts it perfectly down the right sideline to George Kittle, 38 yards into the end zone. It was Kittle's second catch, second touchdown. He would get one more catch for one more touchdown, but that play call by Kyle Shanahan, perfect. The Niners had everything working, and he got a little bit creative there with the handoff, the reverse, the pitch back on the flea flicker, and it worked to perfection. Everything the Niners drew up on offense here in this one, it worked well, and that one was no exception.
He was in his bag all night. It was almost as if Shanahan...
Who, Shanahan or Purdy?
Both. The whole team. Steve Wilkes, Isaiah Oliver. Pick whoever you want in the bag. Doesn't matter, Mark. Doesn't matter. We're so good. Anyways. Shanahan is almost like he saw Dan Quinn in the suite and said, I'm going to make you suffer. You cost me a championship in Atlanta. Your defense gave up so many points. I'm going to make you suffer. And every time they face off, Shanahan says, I'm going to beat you down and remind you what it's like every time you play San Francisco to lose to a Shanahan-led offense. He was in his bag calling trick plays. It felt like every time Purdy touched the football, because Shanahan's obviously the leader, drawing up plays, a mastermind, there was like 7 yards, 8 yards, 3 touchdown passes over 10 yards. It felt as if everything was working. I have no idea what the Dallas game plan was. They came in flat. They didn't execute. Their best player didn't show up. Their defensive coordinator didn't scheme anything correctly. Like, there was a point in this game where it was as if the Dallas Cowboys didn't come to play, and they knew what was going to happen the minute the game started.
I mean, yeah, the first drive was perfect as well. I talked about the first drive of the second half. I thought that was the best I've seen Brock Purdy just throw after throw after throw after throw. Perfect. But they came out, you mentioned it, the first drive was nearly perfect as well. They were phenomenal. They scored, a touchdown on that first drive. A George Kittle 19-yard pass. He was coming over from the left side, wide open in the back right corner of the end zone. Purdy lofted it over the top of the defense. Just so many picture-perfect throws by Purdy today. There was one to Deebo that was behind him that fell incomplete. There was a couple that were deflected at the line of scrimmage. But besides those, every other throw he made, Sterling, just right between the numbers, on the chest of his wide receivers, out in space. And we're talking about 30 yards down the field, and these are just dots. I mean, after the Rams game, after week 2, the conversation was, can this guy throw down the field? Like, arm strength.
We said it. Yeah.
We talked about it.
Yeah.
I mean, he missed a couple down the field in that game. On passes, 10-plus yards downfield today, Sterling.
Tell me.
Brock Purdy, 7 for 10, 166 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Ooh, man.
10-plus yards down the field, 7 for 10, 166, and 3.
So he completes over 70% of his passes, scores 4 touchdowns, and maybe the biggest concern of, in a big game, you have to hit those big-time throws. He's doing that?
And not only is he hitting those big-time throws, he's avoiding turnovers at the same time. I mean, a lot of times the argument, like, go back to the Rams game. The argument was, he missed some of those throws downfield, or maybe he throws downfield a little less often than some of the other star quarterbacks. But you know what? For the Niners, that's okay, because all you need to do with this offense is avoid turnovers, and you're still going to win all your games, right?
Yeah.
Now Brock Purdy is getting the best of both worlds. He's beating you down the field. Again, 7 for 10, 166, and 3 touchdowns on throws 10-plus yards downfield. He's doing that, and he's not turning the ball over. 0 interceptions. YouTube, you see that? 0 interceptions thrown this season. 0 for Brock Purdy. 1 turnover on a strip sack, week 1. 0 interceptions. And he's firing the ball downfield 10 times in a game. He's doing everything you could possibly ask for.
11-1 touchdown to turnover ratio this year. 11-1.
And an infinite touchdown to interception ratio, Sterling. Infinite.
Mark.
11-0.
The text line,
Put that into your computer. It won't compute.
The 510 on the Comcast business text line has said, we have Jake Moody, a.k.a. Legatron, and Mark, we have maybe the best.
Do we have a Purdy nickname?
We have a Brock Purdy nickname.
Oh,
Are you
I'm
ready?
ready.
We have a drum roll. Brocktimus Prime. We got the Transformers, Mark. Brocktimus Prime. Lock it up. Sign it to a 5-movie deal right now. I want Optimus Prime, Brocktimus Prime, Legatron. I want them fighting Decepticons.
Brocktimus Prime.
There we go, Craig.
That's pretty good.
510 coming in clutch.
Shout out 510. That's a good one.
I like that.
I like that too. All right, let's go back to the phones here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. It's Grandy and Sterling. 888-957-9570. That's also the Comcast Business text line. Up next is Calvin in Concord. Calvin, you're on Overtime with Grandy and Sterling. What's up?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
We're doing great, Calvin. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. I just caught the second half of the game at my local watering hole. I had to watch the first half of the game at work, and I work at a restaurant, so I got to peek in every now and then, and we were kind of slow tonight, so I kind of took the night off and just watched the rest of the second half at the bar. And I just got to say, man, there's no debate that Brock is that guy, you know? Kittle did amazing, 3 touchdowns. And not just the offense was amazing, but the defense, dude, the picks. That is the Dak Prescott I know. 3 interceptions. That's the real Dak Prescott right there. Warner with that pick, dude, like the whole team went off tonight, you know? Like everyone chipped in.
Yeah, I agree with you, Calvin. I mean, it was the most complete team performance we've seen. You and I, Sterling, sat on these very same airwaves, sat in this very same studio last week after the Niners beat the Arizona Cardinals and said the Niners offense better than the defense? Like, that's how good the offense had been through 4 weeks. Now, they were fantastic again today, but the conversation was the defense through 4 weeks, not as good as they were last year, right? They were incredible today. By far their best game of the season. You pair that with the highest point total of the season for the 49ers, not even close. Their best complete 60 minutes of football offensively and defensively.
The offensive line was coming in knowing they had a massive task, holding back a defense that has the best pressure rate in football. Brock Purdy sacked 1 time tonight.
And it came on a safety blitz?
Yeah.
Untouched.
It wasn't even DeMarcus Lawrence or Micah Parsons or Massey Smith. It was not the guy.
Just a good call by Dan Quinn.
Yeah. But Dak Prescott, he's so bad. Dak Prescott, his last 3 games against the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, you have the full stats, combined stats in 3 games?
Just going to tell you turnovers and sacks.
Oh, man.
Dak Prescott, in his last 3 games against the San Francisco 49ers.
Be bad.
6 total interceptions and 9 sacks. That's 2 playoff games and tonight at Levi Stadium in week number 5.
Do you have the total number of touchdown
You're
passes?
asking for too much. We're talking about the bad stuff. 6.
It's probably like 4 touchdowns, 6 interceptions,
and 9 sacks. The Niners own the Dak Prescott-led Dallas Cowboys.
And that's why you can understand how in case you missed it, I'll try to track down the sound. I know it's in the system. I'll get it in a little bit. He was asked after their game last week against New England about this matchup and specifically about losing in the playoffs to the Niners last year. And he lashed out at the reporter.
You're not going to like me when I'm angry. Like he's the Incredible Hulk. Come on, dude.
That's why.
You're Bruce Banner.
But you can understand why he answers like that. I mean, the Niners have to haunt his dreams. They're in his nightmares.
Like Freddy Krueger, but it's just the Niners. It's Kyle Shanahan.
You can run, but you can't hide. You know what?
You know, it's funny because the 404 says this. Happy Brocktoberfest. Mark, welcome to Brocktober.
Well, you know what? Iowa State fans, Brock Purdy went to Iowa State.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they call October Brocktober because he was always dominant in October. I know he was a fantastic quarterback at Iowa State. He was good in all months, but specifically in October, there's something about this month that he loves, Sterling.
Well, it is his month. That's why.
He owns it?
He's 1-0 during it, Mark. Why wouldn't he?
That's a good point.
It's like, hey, well, actually, is he 2-0 in it now? The first and the 8th?
Yeah, he's 2-0 this year in October.
Mark, we're cooking. We're all getting hammered. It's Brocktoberfest, Mark. We're 2-0. Celebrating. Man.
Oh, God. Yeah, but I mean, it's crazy how phenomenal he's been so far. All right, let's go back to the phone lines here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. Up next is Steve. Steve is leaving Levi's Stadium. Steve, you're on Overtime with Grandy and Sterling. What'd you think of that 42-10 Niners win tonight?
Oh, hey, it took like an hour to get out of that damn parking lot.
I'm sure.
It's the worst.
Yeah, for real. But Brock Purdy, man, he's the man. He is the man. McCaffrey's doing what he does, but I want to say Ayuk is the dude too. At the same time, Debo's the man. It just, I drafted Brock Purdy 13th round in my fantasy team, and I got him starting. And everyone's like, "Why'd you draft Brock Purdy?" And I did it.
I mean, hey,
there you go, Steve. Yeah, good call. I mean, that's good value for Steve in his fantasy football league.
You may pick him 13th in fantasy. He ain't going 13th in a real draft.
No, yeah, probably not. Yeah,
probably going top 10.
All right, so I teased that Dak sound. I did track it down. So this is Dak asked last week after the team's dominant win, the Cowboys' dominant win, that is, over the New England Patriots. Asked, and you'll hear the question, asked about last year's playoff loss to the 49ers.
Dak, what was the feeling leaving that locker room last January against those guys?
No, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, we're so far past that, to be honest with you, but that's obvious. I mean, you just want to piss me off going into this week, and I appreciate that. I do, actually. I do. Yeah, appreciate that. Appreciate that.
That lost drive, you guys.
I mean, every day. Every day. Every day, Ty, every day.
I mean, that's the sound of a man.
He's defeated.
Yeah.
He circled week 5 and said, "Coach, I don't want to play."
He said, "Thank you for upsetting me, actually. Like, I'm going to use that to go into this game." And what does he do? Sterling, he comes out after saying that, 14 for 24, 153, a touchdown, and 3 interceptions.
Do you think a team like Dallas that has watched Dak Prescott lose against San Francisco 3 times in a row, 2 times in the playoffs, do you think that team, maybe even Jerry Jones, has lost faith that Dak Prescott can actually get him past the Niners?
Yes.
Do you think there's a
They
reason?
lost faith before tonight.
Before tonight?
Yes.
Why is that?
I mean, we've seen it. I mean, we talked about it. I mean, you called them frauds.
Well, I think they're always frauds.
I wouldn't go that far, but we talked about how Dak Prescott seems to play his worst when the lights are the brightest, in the bigger moments, right? Like, it's happened countless times.
He keeps falling in the Kirk Cousins, Daniel Jones is way worse, but Kirk Cousins era or grid, or whatever you want to call it, of once the lights get bright in prime time, he's not the same guy.
Shout out Kirk. Kirk's a better quarterback than Dak Prescott. And in my opinion, it's not that close.
Wow.
Dak Prescott is Kirk Cousins is a very good quarterback.
Yeah.
Very good. Dak Prescott's not on his level. Shanahan absolutely adores him.
You don't think Dak would be in the same category as Kirk Cousins?
He shouldn't be. I don't think so. I mean, no, and if you're trying to get in the mind of Jerry Jones and the Cowboys, I mean, you could ask, why did you trade for Trey Lance?
Well, to get intel of the Niners. That's exactly.
Worked great.
It didn't work at all.
I saw a couple of tweets. I saw a couple of tweets today. It was like, oh, the whole conversation was Trey Lance sharing the Niners' secrets. And now the storyline is, oh, he's actually just a mole still working for the 49ers.
He's a sleeper agent for Shanahan.
He's a spy.
Next thing you know, he'll be in Philadelphia next week, too.
Well, I don't know if you guys saw, they talked to each other at the middle of the field. It was Brock and
pregame.
Talking about. I have some audio of them, actually what he said to Trey at that moment.
Okay. You didn't betray me. You betrayed yourself. No,
Optimus! It's a good one.
Optimus Prime.
In case you missed it, via the 510 on the text line, Brock Purdy's new nickname is Brocktimus Prime. So good pull there from Craig behind the glass from Transformers.
Man. Those movies are not good. Not
First
good.
one was
Hey, they
good.
made a lot of money.
The money doesn't matter.
They made a lot of money.
Kirk Cousins is making a lot. Dak Prescott's making a lot of money. He's not good.
All right. We got some Shanahan sound that we'll get to in a little bit. I did want to first go to the phones here. Grandpa Daddy's been hanging out on hold for a while. 888-957-9570. Grandpa Daddy, you're on overtime with Grandy and Sterling. What's up?
Bang, bang, Niner game.
Yes, sir.
Let's go.
Dude, the stadium was electrifying. I have VIP parking, so I'm already home. And I get home, my daughter, Daddy, what did you bring me back? I had to take her to Target because I forgot to bring her back something from the stadium. My bad. You know what I'm saying? But, dude. Purdy skeptics, and I got the Purdy name
What
for
is
us
it
right now.
What is it?
He is Doc Purdy because he's surgical and he goes in there and picks you apart, baby.
Wow.
I like that.
It was amazing.
Clear to play with Brock Purdy.
He's the doctor. Wow. It's on, man. It's on. Super Bowl or bust. Hey, you know what? They're looking good. They're burning on all cylinders, man. And I'm telling you, if they keep this same crew for 2-3 years, it's going to be a repeat. It's going to be a three-peat. It's going to be hard to beat them, man.
Wow, Grandpa Daddy. All right, let's focus on the first one before we start thinking about the next two. But, I mean, there's no denying that the 49ers are in a fantastic position. We talked about it already. Brock Purdy is making the minimum, like what, 800 plus, not even 900,000.
840,000?
It's between 800 and 900,000.
With the roommate included.
Yeah. And the Niners are not contractually allowed. They can't even approach Brock and say, hey, I know you can't ask for this yet, but we're going to show our appreciation for you and give you a nice extension. They can't even do that now. They can't even do that next season. The Niners are locked in to the biggest bargain in the National Football League for years to come. This is not just you better get it done this year. The Niners are in an incredibly fantastic position moving forward. And hell, even once Purdy gets past his rookie contract and he signs a big deal, which he will with the 49ers because that's what they do, the Niners will still be in a great position because Brock Purdy is proving to not just be a flash in the pan. He's proving to be, as we've already talked about, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Is it weird, and you kind of hinted at this all night, that it feels weird to feel like we have a franchise quarterback? It feels like it's wrong. And we've been through so much of the ifs, the maybes, the buts. So he's good for a year, then he's not great the next year. The Kaepernicks, the Smiths, the Garoppolos. It feels almost like we don't deserve it or this shouldn't be happening. Whereas Brock Purdy going out there being undefeated, again, annihilating the number one defense in football, who Jason Garrett and Mariah Taylor both picked to beat us tonight. I'm sorry, Jason. You can't be a homer all the time. I'm sorry. But can we just face the fact that this Niners team isn't just good? This Niners team is the best in football. They are the most explosive offense, maybe outside of Miami, but they're running at all cylinders, unlike Miami is week by week. This Niners team, through 5 weeks, has outplayed not just the teams they faced, but every team you can argue should be playing next to them in January or in the playoffs. They are the best team in football by far. And it's not even close.
You know how the conversation is going to shift now, right?
Tell me.
The conversation is going to be, all right, we thought Dallas was good, but guess what? They're actually still the Dallas Cowboys. They're not very good. Hey, Niners. And again, this is not my opinion. Hey, Niners, you still haven't played anybody. We're going to wait until week 13 against the Eagles.
While they're 12-0. 11-0.
That's how the conversation is going to change now. I guarantee you. It's going to lead like first take tomorrow morning. It's going to lead.
I hope Skip Bayless cries on national television.
Dak Prescott, lost the prime time. Well, he already set up for this. He'd already been talking about how
already.
dominant the 49ers have been.
Every time I watch Brock Purdy, he gets better and better. It's like, all right, Skip.
Not your best impression.
It's not supposed to be. Just jump in your hole and just lay in your bed. It's like, come on.
All right, let's go back to the phones here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. 888-957-9570. Niners dominant today, 42-10. Was this the most impressive regular season win of the Shanahan era? I think so. At least it's up there, top 3, top 4 in the Shanahan era. Was this Brock Purdy's best game as a professional? I think so as well. The Niners were incredible today. 42-10 is the final score. Let's go to Dre in Lemoore. Dre, you're on Overtime with Grandy and Sterling. Dre, what's up?
Oh, just enjoying this kick-ass victory tonight.
Yes, sir.
Beat them down. They beat them down. I have to disagree with you, one of you there, saying I feel guilty. Is this, do we have a franchise quarterback? It's about damn time we have a real quarterback.
Heck yeah.
Shanahan's had this great system for years. Now he's got somebody who he can just put out there and does it. The thing I trip about Purdy is, guys, you guys see it. He doesn't look for that 10-yard receiver. He looks for the 120 and 30 yards down place. Ayuk's wide open. He hits him. Man, let me ask you guys, what was your favorite play tonight?
It's a good question, Dre. I think the one that stands out to me immediately is the one we talked about to open up this segment. It was the handoff to McCaffrey, the reverse to Debo, pitching it back to Brock Purdy on the flea flicker to Kittle for the second touchdown. I think that's my favorite play of the night, Sterling.
Ooh, I don't know. It's really tough. Honestly, I think the back shoulder that actually was negated for a first down.
That was a fantastic throw.
That's an elite level of throw Brock Purdy made that doesn't even count.
That drive was incredible. 4 for 4.
But then there's the one.
Could have been 5 for 5.
The fact that on first drive of the game, second half, first drive, Brock Purdy combined 8 for 8, 126 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's some quarterbacks' games, halves.
Something that the 49ers are doing an incredible job of this year, and it really wasn't the case in years past. It is starting games hot.
Yeah.
They're coming out and scoring on their first drive.
They have 31 points on first drives, the most in football this year.
Have they scored on every first drive this season? I'll have to go back and check. They did week 1. Did they week 2 against the Rams? We got to hit a break. We'll come back with that. I think they might have. If not every single first drive, it's 4 out of 5. We'll get you that answer on the other side here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. It's Grandy and Sterling. We've got an hour of overtime left here on 95.7 The Game. The Niners beat the Cowboys 42-10. We still want to hear from you. Are you heading home from Levi's? Give us a call, 888-957-9570. That's also the Comcast Business text line, and we're keeping an eye on Twitch and YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. More overtime coming up on the other side right here on 95.7 The Game.
Do you find yourself stuck in a timeshare? Get the real facts about the timeshare industry and...
You want to be part of the program, give us a call, 888-957-9570. I'm particularly interested in callers that were at Levi's Stadium here tonight. What was the atmosphere like? You're at a Sunday night football game against bitter rivals, the Niners and the Cowboys, and the Niners absolutely dominate. They wiped the floor with the Cowboys. 42-10 is the final score. Niners led 14-0. They led 21-7, and they ultimately close out this game 42-10. They put up the most points they have scored all season long. They put up more points in this one game, Sterling, that the Cowboys had allowed through the first 4 weeks of the 2023 season. The Cowboys' offense had been playing relatively well, although I know you like to say not just the offense, the defense and special teams scoring some points for them. But the Cowboys coming into this game averaging 31 points. Not the Cowboys offense, the Cowboys as a team averaging 31 points, and they'd only commit 1 turnover through 4 games. They score 10 points tonight, and they commit 4 turnovers. The Niners put together their best game offensively and defensively in this game tonight. You just heard the George Kittle 3rd touchdown. Mike Tirico on NBC on Sunday Night Football. First 3-touchdown game in George Kittle's career. Niners quarterback Brock Purdy and tight end George Kittle have now connected on 10 touchdowns since Brock Purdy took over as starter in Week 14 of last year. That's the most by any QB pass catcher duo in that span. Number 2, by the way, Patrick Mahomes and Jerick McKinnon. Hard to believe that that's the number 2 connection. But since Purdy became a starter in this league, Brock Purdy and George Kittle have connected in the end zone more times than any other duo in the NFL. 3 times today, Purdy to Kittle for 6.
The Niners have the best quarterback pass-catching duo in football right now.
Touchdown, Cat. Kittle had 3 catches today.
Well, what's the point of the game?
Scoring points.
And what do they do?
Score points.
Exactly, Mark. Exactly.
He hadn't... Has he scored a touchdown entering the game?
He had 7 catches for 90 yards against the Giants and didn't get a touchdown.
I don't think he had a touchdown before this, right?
I don't think so.
So the fact that they hold that right now is they've hooked up more times than any other duo in the NFL, despite not scoring a touchdown through 3 weeks. It's impressive. That means they did obviously a ton tonight, 3 touchdowns, but also I think we forget how dominant the Purdy-Kittle connection was at the end of last year. The Thursday night game in Seattle, I think he had 2 touchdowns in that game, and that was a hard-fought game. Kittle led the way offensively in that one. They have... you're really saying this about everyone now. He and Ayuk have insane chemistry. They did not get a touchdown. Ayuk did not today through the air, but all of those passes deep down the field, Purdy generally is targeting Ayuk on passes 20, 25, 30 yards down the field. They have an insane connection, and tonight you saw that with George Kittle in the red zone.
Well, it's not even just Purdy. Kittle had a great game, but Jordan Mason coming up clutch, 7 carries, 59 yards, averaging, at the time I looked at my stats, 8.4 yards a carry.
Jordan Mason?
Yeah.
Incredible. He wrapped up with 10 for 69, so 6.9 yards per carry. He had the 26-yard touchdown run. He was good. And you and I were talking while watching the game out in the studio. Elijah Mitchell out again for a second straight game.
I said trade for running back, but...
Oh, that's not what I was going to bring up. Yeah. Just to bring you behind the curtain, Sterling said the Niners should give the Patriots a call and acquire Ramondre Stevenson.
But now tonight...
Why the hell do the Niners need Ramondre Stevenson?
Well, that was before Jordan Mason said, you know what, Sterling? Don't worry. I should be the running back number 2 going forward.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Well, see, Mark, it's about the long view of things. You have to work your way towards the climax. Lord of the Rings had a trilogy for a reason, Mark. We had Fellowship of the Ring, 2 Towers, Return of the King, and we finally reached our goal, right? Jordan Mason should be this team's number 2 running back.
Thank you, Craig. Yes.
Am I Frodo or Schmeagol in this conversation? Okay, too far. All right.
I'm not Schmeagol. That's all I know.
Okay, but Jordan Mason should be this team's number 2 running back. Elijah Mitchell, you've been fine, but you're hurt far too often to rely on. Again, Jordan Mason in this game, 6.9, 7 yards a pop. And it wasn't like he was just getting garbage time attempts. That was Ty Davis Price's job tonight. Jordan Mason, it feels like even dating back to last year, because they called him the quote-unquote the closer, he was getting meaningful snaps last year. He needs to be this team's number 2 running back. There's power behind his runs. He knocked over Jake Brendel and put him on his butt and kept rolling through today. But Jordan Mason, if Christian McCaffrey is the Lightning, Jordan Mason can be this team's thunder.
Jordan Mason has the second most rushing yards on the team right now. And I shared this with you during the game as well. I was on a show on Labor Day just before week 1. It was the Monday before week 1. We were on Nick Bosa Watch that day. I remember it. And it was Evan Giddings and myself on Labor Day.
I was there.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were there.
I was there.
And we were going through like a hot take portion of the show. And this, I don't know if this really qualifies as a hot take. Maybe at the moment you could consider it because Elijah Mitchell clearly the number 2 running back. And you have also the added wrinkle of Deebo Samuel, who got a handful of carries today. Yeah. But I said I think that Jordan Mason's going to be second on this team in rushing yards behind, obviously, Christian McCaffrey. Through 5 weeks, he's been that. Now, part of it has been because of Elijah Mitchell's injury, but that's what I was baking in when making that prediction. And I think we're getting to a point, Sterling, where even if Elijah Mitchell comes back, it's not a guarantee that he's getting all of the second-string reps at this point. Jordan Mason will be active on every single game moving forward, assuming he's healthy, because he is able, and this is where Ty Davis Price kind of gets the short end of the stick because they trust Jordan Mason more on special teams. Yep. So he will be active for every single game that he's physically able to play in. I'm sticking by it. I think Jordan Mason will be second on this team in rushing yards at the end of the season. It's partly because of Elijah Mitchell's injury history, but it's also because Jordan Mason, frankly, he's just earned it. He was phenomenal today.
Going back to last year, Thursday night in Seattle, who closed that game out? Oh, Jordan Mason. Biggest game of the year, division on the line. Who did Kyle Shanahan trust to make sure that game was iced? And we're sitting there in the all 1994 throwbacks. They're all light, and Purdy's out there yelling, "Come on the field," because Jordan Mason's out there getting 5 yards of pop and getting you first downs, icing the game. I like Elijah Mitchell. I've been saying it since last year coming into this year, being at training camp and OTAs every single day. I would not have been surprised if Jordan Mason won this job outright. Elijah Mitchell, again, he's a good running back when healthy. He was clutch in 2021, being this team's starting running back down the stretch. But the minute he averaged 1 yard a carry in the NFC Championship game, I said, okay, this is not going to work. Last year wasn't great. He was fine. In fact, against this Dallas Cowboys team last year come playoff time, go out of bounds, Elijah. Stayed inbound or went out of bounds. Kept the clock. Mitchell, I like you. Jordan Mason needs to be this team's number 2 running back next year.
Yeah, we'll see. It's obviously just a small part of this game here tonight. Niners dominate 42-10. Jordan Mason had kind of that final nail in the coffin. A 26-yard touchdown run came immediately after the Niners picked off Dak Prescott yet again early in the fourth quarter. It put the Niners up 42-10. The score would stay that way the rest of the game. 10 for 69. He led this team in rushing yards tonight. McCaffrey 19 for 51. Only 2.7 a pop for McCaffrey, but he got into the end zone. He also caught a couple of passes for 27 yards. But Purdy and George Kittle, the stars. Purdy 17 for 24, 252 and 4 touchdowns. 3 of those touchdowns going to George Kittle. Here is Kyle Shanahan post-game talking about Purdy's performance and where he ranks this performance in Purdy's growing list of good performances.
He was really good. Everybody was pretty good, but thought he missed one throw throughout the day. From what it seemed like, just a little behind BA in the first quarter on one, and everything else seemed pretty flawless. He did a great job. There's a real good pass rush, some tight coverages. Guys gave him some time, and also the guys made a lot of plays too.
Yeah, I mean, there was the one, I think I referenced it as a throw to Deebo, but it was to Ayuk. Threw it a little bit behind Ayuk, right over the middle part of the field in the first half. But other than that, I mean, he had the 2 batted down to the line of scrimmage. Aside from that, Sterling, it was picture-perfect throw after picture-perfect throw. He was on the money time and time and time again, and not just in the flats, not just on quick slants to Ayuk, to Debo, to Kittle. Down the field, again, 7 for 10 on passes that traveled 10-plus yards down the field. The best game of his career, for me, bar none.
What did Shanahan call it? Flawless, outside of one throw. He's out there Mortal Kombating dudes. Like, come on. He's flawless victory in the Dallas Cowboys
Finish
defense.
him.
Honestly, fatality. Like, come on. Like, Brock Purdy's out there putting them, I don't want to say video game numbers, but what he's
Sterling,
doing.
he didn't throw for 300 yards.
Oh my,
How can you call it video game numbers?
Brock Purdy.
I'm joking.
You're going to get me started again, Mark. Brock Purdy, what he's doing, the execution, someone called him a doctor because he's so surgical. The way he processes his prep, again, Brock Purdy's not putting up video game numbers, but I'll tell you this, 4 touchdowns against the number 1 defense in football, it's kind of video game-like from Brock Purdy. In fact, this may be Brock Purdy's best game of his entire career, and it's not like you see signs of slowing down. It's not like, oh, wait till he peaks, or now the conversation can't be wait till he plays a real defense, and the conversation now can't turn into, oh, the Dallas Cowboys defense wasn't that good. Yes, it was. The Dallas Cowboys were allowing the least amount of points per game at 10.25, and Brock Purdy dropped 42. Come on. Like, enough with the talk of, oh, Brock Purdy's not good enough, or wait till this, wait till that. Enough is enough. Give the kid kudos. He's 23, leading the best offense in football. And come on. There is no more, I want this quarterback or that quarterback. It's Brock Purdy, it's Mahomes, and maybe a couple other guys. He's in that conversation with the elites right now.
Yeah, he is. You can't deny it. Through five games of the 2023 season, and Kyle Shanahan had a sense early on that his quarterback had it. I mean, we talked about the stats. First drives of both halves, it was evident early the Niners were rolling offensively. Kyle Shanahan saw that from Brock Purdy as well.
Yeah, I felt that way with him all day. So there wasn't a time that I didn't feel he was like that. You just got to be careful when you feel that way from beginning to end that you don't just start calling too many passes. That's usually the challenge of a play caller because you do too many and eventually you're going to give them a chance to make a big play. But we felt if we can mix it in enough that he was pretty on and we could handle their protections just by him getting rid of it. And he was fun to coach today.
You think before Brock Purdy, Kyle Shanahan has ever had to worry about not calling enough or not calling too many passes? You think he's ever had that worry before, Sterling? Ever?
Outside of Matt Ryan circa 2016 MVP?
As Niners head coach, has he had that worry? Like, he's got to check himself. Like, we've thrown it 5 straight times. I think I should call a handoff to the most dynamic running back in the game, guys. Like, that's how good Brock Purdy's been. He's convincing his head coach to go away from his star running back.
Could I argue that maybe Kyle Shanahan with Brock Purdy, like, is Brock Purdy Kyle Shanahan's most trusted offensive piece? I know he has Debo and McCaffrey's great and kind of guaranteed to have 5 yards a pop at this point, but he's never afraid to give the ball to Brock Purdy in any moment. First down, second down, 3rd and 2. He's going to give Brock Purdy the ball every single play. And I get it, he's a quarterback, but he's not afraid to let him throw the ball in any situation.
That's a good question. I'm not sure if I'd say he's more trusted than, say, McCaffrey or giving it to Debo. 100%, though, he's the most trusted quarterback Shanahan's ever had.
Here.
Well,
go further. Could Brock Purdy, if we're going to assume the fact that Brock Purdy has played this well and Shanahan trusts him this much, if the last quarterback he's had like that was MVP Matt Ryan
it's true.
in that offense, why couldn't Brock Purdy, I'm not saying put up the exact same stats, but have a very similar outcome, albeit maybe actually winning the whole thing?
Yeah, they fell a little bit short there.
It's Dan Quinn's fault. No one cares.
Just a little bit. I mean, I think we're at a point, and I'm interested in what you and the callers think about this. 888-957-9570. Are we seeing perhaps the evolution of Kyle Shanahan a little bit? Because he now has a quarterback that it seems like he trusts fully. It seemed like the 49ers, I don't think a vanilla playbook or a vanilla play calling is necessarily the right way to put it, but more conservative with past quarterbacks. Trey Lance included, although it was a very small sample size, but definitely more conservative there. Part of that is because he's a rookie. Like, that's just the way things went. Jimmy Garoppolo, generally, you were a little more conservative with. Anyone before that doesn't even scratch the surface. I mean, Nick Mullins and C.J. Beathard and Brian Hoyer, like, those guys don't matter. Are we seeing Kyle Shanahan evolve as a play caller offensively because he now has a quarterback that he fully trusts? He's calling more passes. He's being more aggressive on first downs. He's calling these trick plays. He's allowing his quarterback to air the ball out deep down the field. Now you have the weapons around him to support that sort of offense. But I think we're seeing Kyle Shanahan change and evolve and prove to us, show to us, when I get the right guy under center, behind center in the shotgun, which they're using very often with Brock Purdy, I can be more aggressive. I can change the way I game plan around an opponent. I think we're seeing that now with Shanahan and Brock Purdy.
I think it's more of Brock Purdy executes Shanahan's system to a higher degree than any other quarterback we've seen here, at least in San Francisco. And because of that, it tends me to give Kyle Shanahan's offense, not just the players, but the scheme itself, how he's drawing up plays. Give him more credit. Kyle Shanahan gets so much flack for what he's not accomplished here or some of the dumb play calls he's had. But it feels like now, like, I want to almost praise Kyle Shanahan more and say, you're dialing up everything and it's working almost every single play.
So do you think that, okay, the way that you would just explain that to me, do you think that everything that Brock Purdy is getting, every throw, every lane, every deep ball, every opportunity was available for Jimmy Garoppolo?
I think a lot of it was. I think,
and just simply Jimmy Garoppolo either didn't see it, didn't want to throw it, didn't trust it, threw it incomplete?
I think, well, that's why he's not here anymore.
Yes.
Right? Like, there are things Brock Purdy is at least willing to do, but I also think because Brock Purdy preps, whenever you hear broadcasters talk about him, it's how well he preps. He knows where running backs and receivers and tight ends are going to be. It feels like as if Brock Purdy can almost see the game, if not the exact same way, pretty close to how Shanahan is dialing up things. And because of that, he is able to fire and hit at you for 25 yards on a post or whatnot. It feels like that these plays, maybe not all of them, but there were receivers open many times Jimmy G just didn't throw to that were streaking downfield or open towards the sideline for 25-plus yards. For whatever reason why he wasn't taking those chances, and Brock Purdy's like, what do I have to lose? If it's not there, I'll check it down to the best weapon in football. And it feels like Shanahan and him they're gelling so well. It feels like as if they're working in tandem, where it hasn't felt that way with most quarterbacks here since Shanahan became the head coach.
Interesting. Let's go back to the phones here on Overtime on 95.7 The Game. 888-957-9570. Grandy and Sterling with you here on Overtime after a dominant Niners win, 42-10. Up next is Josh in Berkeley. Josh, you're on Overtime with Grandy and Sterling. What's up?
What's up, Randy and Sterling? What a night tonight, man. Sunday Night Football. The atmosphere was unreal. I just got to say, man, these weapons are unbelievable. I don't think I've seen Shanahan and this Niner offense click. But how do you stop them? Like, you pick one, Kittle's going to burn you for 3 touchdowns tonight. Like, where does it stop?
That's a good question, Josh.
It's like a hydra.
I think that's what defenses around the league are trying to figure out right now. How do you try to slow this team down?
Well, you can't blitz Purdy. You can't not blitz Purdy.
Yeah, we saw the Giants blitzed him endlessly, and he killed them in the second half.
The Cowboys played man coverage all game, and he put up 4 touchdowns against them. The Rams played zone coverage, and he put up 30 points against them. I don't know.
I don't know what the strategy is.
Well, I'm sure down the road some teams sometimes will play flat, just they'll play down, whether it's a short week or kind of a lull week for them. But it does feel like that right now, at least through 5 games, there's no lull in sight. There is no end in sight for how well they're playing. And what's weird enough is that if they don't score 30, that's a letdown. 29 points. Oh, why couldn't it be 30? Oh, come on. It's like the fact that the Niners, are averaging over 30 points a game, probably 35 now, around there, 34 now. If they don't do that, it's like, oh, man, Come
Yeah,
on.
what, 30, 30, 30, 35, and now 42.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, when you were saying how do you beat them, I was thinking of some of the great offenses that we've seen, that Patriots team that went almost undefeated. I was thinking about when I covered this at the 2016 Falcons. The problem you run into with those teams is you have to be able to get pressure with 4. That's because you can't drop. You can't sit back and let them go out because they'll pick you apart. You can't blitz because they'll pick you apart. So you got to have 4 guys that kind of how the Giants beat the Patriots that year. That can get pressure up front, and then when you get the ball, you have to keep the ball. You have to have 8-9 minutes of offense running the ball, moving the chains, because we've seen it. You go 3 and out and give them the ball right back, you're down 14-0.
Yeah.
So I think at the end of the day, I see the Eagles probably have the closest blueprint because they can run the ball, they can run long possessions, and they can get pressure with 4. But even that, you got to play the perfect game to beat this team.
Well, that's the thing is in previous years, this Niners team hasn't always played perfect games, and with the quarterbacks they previously had, the defense had to play perfect, the weapons around him had to be perfect, and now it feels like that this team can fumble at the goal line and still score 42 points. It's not as if games are 1 possession away. They're 2, 3, 4 away, and it feels like that whenever San Francisco's offense gets rolling, there's no stopping them.
It's got to be frightening for teams around the league because, I mean, what Craig is talking about, you have to try to get pressure with only 4 rushing.
Which is almost impossible in this day and age.
Which is difficult to do, and even if you are, the Niners can adjust and say, all right, we're going to throw it quickly to Debo.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know how you do it. The Niners have not only the best skill positions, they have the best running back in the NFL.
Yeah.
Deebo Samuel is one of the most versatile weapons in the league. Brandon Ayuk is climbing up the wide receivers rankings. George Kittle, while he's not targeted as often as some of the other elite pass-catching tight ends, is clearly one of the best tight ends in the NFL. And slowly but surely, Brock Purdy is becoming, to your point, one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. There's no weakness there.
The Niners, like Philadelphia, have something that you can't guard. The Eagles have the tush push. San Francisco has an entire offense.
It's the brotherly shove.
No, it's
Sterling.
not. They're pushing tushies out there, all right? I hate that play. I hate watching Jalen Hurts glide and hover over the offensive line for first downs, but
Having Jalen Hurts on my fantasy team, I love it.
Well,
give me the easy touchdown. He got one of those today.
Should have picked Brock Purdy, just saying. But it does feel like that this team, Philadelphia has one unstoppable play. This team has one complete unstoppable offense. There's nothing a defensive mind or coordinator has put together so far that has held this team. Philadelphia's pass rush is not as it was last year.
It is feeling increasingly more like if you're going to beat the Niners, it's going to be in a shootout.
Yeah. Whereas it's going to be 35-36 or 35-38, not 10-7 or 20-17.
Which is wild to say, but it feels like you're at a point, even after the defensive performance today, and we got to hit a break here in just a minute, and we'll be back in a little bit to take more of your calls, 888-957-9570. But even after the defensive performance today, Sterling, it feels like we're at a point where there's a little bit more belief that the offense is going to be great, elite, put up a bunch of points, than the defense is going to absolutely dominate a game. That's not a knock on the defense. They're still fantastic, and they've been good this year, but it's just that the offense, 30 points, 30 points, 30 points, 35 points, 42 points.
And the defense this year has only allowed 21 second-half points. Good luck getting into a shootout with this team.
So get them early, or you might not get them at all, essentially.
There you go.
All right, time for a break here on Overtime. We've got 30 more minutes left with you here on 95.7 The Game. Give us a call, 888-957-9570. It's Grandy and Sterling on Overtime after the Niners' 42-10 win over the rival Dallas Cowboys. More Overtime next. We'll hear from Kyle Shanahan, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa. They've all talked. Coming up next on 95.7 The Game.
Pro football player Travis Kelce is pressed for time during the football season, so he does two things at once. Whether it's grilling...
Welcome back. Overtime continues here on 95.7 The Game. That highlight you just heard, Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth on NBC. Fred Warner, an interception. One of 3 times the Niners picked off Dak Prescott today. They forced 4 turnovers in total. Fred Warner had an interception. He had a forced fumble of Tony Pollard, recovered by Kevin Givens. Warner also had a sack. The Niners had 4 sacks as a team. They were all over the Dallas Cowboys tonight. Final score 42-10. And we've got one final segment of overtime left here on this Sunday evening on 95.7 The Game. It's Grandy and Sterling with you. 42-10, the final score. Brock Purdy was incredible. George Kittle had 3 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey had his quietest game of the season. He had a fumble on the goal line. Could have easily been 49 points, Sterling, if not more. But the Niners, with Christian McCaffrey's quietest game, put up their most points of the season, 42 points. The Niners offense has now scored 30 points, 30 points, 30 points, 35 points, and now 42 points. They are getting better and better and better, and they did it against one of the better defenses in the league, entering this game who had only given up 10.25 points per game. They had allowed 41 points in total through 4 weeks. They give up 42 points tonight. The Niners absolutely dominant against the Dallas Cowboys at home, and they're 5-0.
For as great as the win is, for as great as Brock Purdy has been and how good the offense has been as a whole and the defense has been, does San Francisco have the best punter and kicker in NFL right now?
I saw that text as well.
5-1-0, coming in clutch. Legatron. We have to get Mitch Wishnowsky a nickname.
He was good today. How many punts did he have? Like only 2?
Oh, I have a stat here. Don't forget.
Uh-oh.
Mitch Wishnowsky has had punts down at Dallas's 5-yard line and the 1-yard line tonight. That's called clutch.
Niners punted 4 times.
So 2 of them inside Dallas's 5-yard line. One of them, I believe, ended up being a fumble by Tony Pollard later or led to that fumble. Then Jake Moody, 20 for 20 on extra points and 9 for 9 on field goals.
First game without a field goal was tonight, right? For Jake Moody?
I think so. We didn't need it, though.
We did not need it. 42 points. That's the other area through
45 would be nice.
through 4 weeks. It was something that I had at least noticed, and this was kind of a carryover from last year. Niners offense had a tendency to kind of stall in the red zone at times.
Yeah.
It had been the case this year. I mean, Jake Moody, 9 field goals, 9 for 9? 9 through 4 weeks. 8 field goal attempts. 9 field goal attempts, almost 2 per game through 4 games. And a lot of times those were coming on the backs of red zone possessions that just stalled out. Now, it's not the end of the world by any stretch, and they were fantastic today. 42 points, 6 scores, all touchdowns, 3 to George Kittle, 1 on the ground each for Jordan Mason and Christian McCaffrey, 1 for Kyle Juszczyk through the air as well. They were phenomenal in this one in that regard. You also had an incredible statistic you were sharing with me during the commercial break.
We actually talk during breaks.
Sometimes.
I don't like
you
Mark.
talk. I don't listen most of the times.
Wow. I'm so underappreciated here. You hear this?
But
what a jerk.
This was via one of our favorites, Kyle Madsen, talking about point differential, right? The Niners obviously elite at that statistic, considering they have dominated really all 5 games they've played so far this year. But an interesting little tidbit about point differential as well.
The San Francisco 49ers as a whole rank number 1 in football with a plus 99 point differential.
Not surprising.
The Buffalo Bills rank number 2 at a plus 79. The Dallas Cowboys, who got boat raced tonight, have a plus 51 point differential.
Despite losing by 32 points tonight.
Number 4 is also the San Francisco 49ers just in the second half at a plus 50. 1 point behind the Dallas Cowboys, mind you.
In just the second half.
In just second half. And number 5, is the San Francisco 49ers just in the first half with a plus 49. Mark, book it! Vegas! Come on!
So if you were to only count the 49ers first half and then only count their second halves, they would both rank top 5 in the NFL in terms of total point differential.
And here's the thing. if you don't want to use, say you don't want to use second half points, they'd still rank number 5. Like, the Niners in the first half and the second half separately have a 1 and 2 point better point differential than the Kansas City Chiefs, led by Patrick Mahomes.
And that is, wow, so 50-point positive point differential in the second halves.
Yes.
And that's including a game like today where your starters basically did not play the entire fourth quarter.
When Sam Darnold's taken meaningless reps.
You score seconds into the fourth quarter, and then you don't score the rest of the game.
Yep.
And you still have
50 plus 50.
Oh, man.
This Niners team is legendary through 5 games. It's weird saying that because it almost feels like you're disrespecting history and saying that, you're getting caught up in the moment. No. If you look at DVOA, which is a very nerd statistic, I understand that, but many people who cover the NFL via The Athletic or other outlets will talk about DVOA. It's a very hard, heavy-hitting analysis of what it is. But DVOA, the San Francisco 49ers offense in this year has the 7th best DVOA through 5 games ever. And that dates back to the 1980s Dynasty Niners and the 1994-95 Steve Young-led champion Niners. This is the best offensive start ever for a San Francisco 49ers team through 5 games.
That's important because it's not just like taking a DVOA or a statistic for a whole season and like chopping it up. Like, this is just talking about first 5 games.
First 5 games.
First 5 games, it is a historically good start.
7th best all time.
That's wild.
Pretty crazy.
Think about how good some of those teams are in history. This is a top 10 start.
Like, we're talking 2013 Broncos. We're talking 2007 Patriots, who lost 1 game. Tom Brady had 50 touchdowns that year. We're talking about the greatest show on turf, 1999 Rams. Some of the greatest offenses ever. San Francisco ranks number 7th of all time.
That's wild. And today was the best performance, both offensively and defensively, for the 49ers. They put it all together with what has been their biggest test so far of the year, and they passed with flying colors, 42-10. Kyle Shanahan, head coach of the Niners, was asked after the game if this was the most complete game they've played so far this year.
I mean, I thought that was our best complete game with all 3 phases. I thought our defense was amazing today, going against some real good players and a good offense there, and I knew that was going to be a challenge, and those guys were unbelievable. I thought it was their best game yet.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know how anyone could disagree with that. 42 points, the most they have scored so far this season. They hold Dallas, who's been averaging as a team about 30 points per game so far this season. They hold them just to 10 points. They forced 4 turnovers, 3 interceptions of Dak. They also forced and recovered a fumble that was put onto the turf by Tony Pollard. The Niners broke out some trickeration as well. George Kittle's second touchdown came on like a double reverse / flea flicker, a handoff to McCaffrey, pitches it backwards on a reverse to Debo, who then pitches it back on a flea flicker to Brock Purdy, who finds George Kittle for a touchdown. Here's Kyle Shanahan talking about that play call that led to Kittle's second touchdown.
We just walked through it once. It's been in for a while. We ran in the NFC Championship last year. Didn't look as good. Christian was at quarterback. That was second half. Detroit ran it earlier in the day. They scored to Laporte on it, so it's something we've had in for a little bit. We just walk through it throughout the weeks. I mean, every week, and keep it up for when we need to call it.
Did you see the Detroit?
Yeah, I saw it before the game.
Did that kind of encourage you to call it?
It was based off what we were going against today. We planned on calling it, but it definitely, seeing it work for someone else gives you more confidence.
Wow, interesting. That's Matt Barrows there asking the follow-up to Kyle Shanahan. I guess when Shanahan has a Sunday night game, he gets to sit back and watch some of the other action from earlier in the day, huh?
He gets to pluck what he likes from other offenses.
Yeah, in case you missed it, it was a little bit quiet there, but it was the Detroit Lions. They called that today, and their rookie tight end, Sam Laporta, scored on it. Jared Goff, trickeration, gets it pitched back to him by a wide receiver, and it goes for 6. So the Niners had already had it installed into their game plan and were planning on using it. Maybe the extra push that Shanahan needed to call it today.
It just shows you that not only is Shanahan this mastermind, and a lot of the talk about him is he's cocky, he's arrogant, his ego, which does exist, but it also shows that he is a student of the game still and is trying to expand his offense and is taking things from Last week it was Miami. This week it's Detroit. Well, yes, he already has those plays kind of game planned and schemed up. He's unafraid to take what other teams are doing that is successful and implement it into his offense. Like, Shanahan right now is cooking the best he ever has. And the text line asks us, 925, where does Miami rank on the DVOA list? They're going crazy this year. 70 points against the Broncos. Guess what? Don't even make the list. A team that put up 70 points that has...
Is the list what? How long is the list?
1981 to 2023. It's about, 12 teams here. Number 1, 1991 Washington. Number 2, 07 Patriots. 1999 Rams. 06 Bears. 19 Patriots. 2013 Broncos. Then 2023 San Francisco.
How long does the list go? Like, how many teams down is it?
On Twitter currently, via Aaron Schatz, it's about 12 teams.
Okay.
Not on there at all.
So they're not top 12, but who knows where they are. They could be maybe top 15. Still a fantastic start.
They're great, but they're not Niners 2023 great.
Not quite on this level.
Crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's wild. Brock Purdy also talked after the game. He was phenomenal today. 4 touchdown passes on the day, 17 for 24, 252 yards. He was asked about just how much he's clicking with this offense right now, if he's ever had that feeling in any level of football before.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever felt, like feeling this good just with the offense and everything as a whole. I can't really think of a time. There's some good games, he played back-to-back games in college. But, right now, it feels like everyone's just on a mission, man. Like, the mindset is right where it needs to. Everyone's so detailed in what they do. Play calls are great. So it's like all I got to do is go out there, do my job, and that's it, and just play ball. So obviously we feel good where we're at, but there's still areas we can still get better at. So
it does kind of feel like every game this year, Sterling, the 49ers have attacked it with just an incredible amount of intensity and focus, and it's been a little bit different, I think, than in years past. I think part of it is just the emphasis on making sure that this team started strong because they hadn't the last 2 years, despite the fact that they made the NFC Championship game in both of those seasons. It's been week in and week out. You strike early. 5 games so far this year. They've scored points on all 5 of those first drives. They scored touchdowns on 4 of those 5. The one time they didn't get a touchdown was just a field goal. But on every single first drive they've had this year, they've scored points. Like, they have come out and attacked early in games with an incredible focus, and I think it's maybe easy to take that for granted. But, you think about 2 years ago, you open up, or not 2 years ago, last year, you open up on the road with a loss against the Chicago Bears. Week 3, you had an absolute clunker on the road against the Denver Broncos. 2 years prior to that, it wasn't the easiest start as well when Jimmy Garoppolo was your starting quarterback.
3-5.
3-5. This team has had an incredible amount of focus, and we could talk about all the flashy plays and Purdy throwing for 4 touchdowns and Kittle finally getting into the action with 3 touchdowns. Last week it was McCaffrey with 4 touchdowns. All that stuff is fantastic, but I think Shanahan and the coaching staff and the players deserve credit, obviously, for the performances and the wins and the points and the turnovers they're forcing and all of that, but that comes partly as a result of just what seems like an intense focus. And I think that has lacked at times in years past. And maybe that's why there's some worry out there that this team is peaking a little bit too early, because it seems like they have, I don't know if a postseason mentality is the right word, but it feels like they're attacking every single week with that kind of like do or die mentality. It feels that way.
This team has one goal in mind, and it feels like every single week they view it as you're in our way to getting to that goal, even if it is week 1 or 2 or 5. It feels like that every single game they view as an obstacle in their way to, if we can destroy this or get over it, we're one step closer to immortality, which this team feels like they were screwed out of a World Series, a Super Bowl opportunity.
It is
last
October
year.
after all.
It's Brocktober, actually. This team feels like they were screwed out of actually having a chance to beat Philadelphia. They want to beat Philadelphia. They want to play them again in the playoffs. They want to show the world, prove to themselves that they belong with their name etched on a Lombardi trophy. Every single week they have a Lombardi trophy mentality of this next game is in our way to getting to immortality. Whether it's Dallas in week 5 or the Cardinals in week 4, this team knows They have one goal in mind, whether it's Steve Wilkes, who called an amazing game today for the defense, or Kyle Shanahan, who had an amazing game for the offense, or the players themselves. They have a one-track mind, and that one track is winning their 6th Super Bowl.
And a big part of that performance today was George Kittle, 3 catches, all for touchdowns, 67 yards, and he was asked after the game about his 3-touchdown performance, his first of his NFL career. Here's what he had to say.
That was my first one. Yeah, I think so. Oh, yeah, I mean, I was a hell of a 7th grade running back, I'll tell you that much. Yeah, running back and defensive end. I had a lot of sacks as well. But, yeah, no, it's been a minute. But it's always fun.
So George Kittle never had 3 touchdowns in his Iowa career, I guess. Wow. So first time collegiate or professional that he had 3 touchdowns in a game.
Is that 5 touchdowns a day from Iowa tight ends?
Laporta had 2.
Kittle had 3.
Did Hawkinson have? No, Hawkinson didn't have any.
Don't remind me, okay, Mark?
Noah Fant didn't have. Or they didn't. They're off this week.
Yeah.
The Seahawks are off this week. There's a lot of Iowa tight ends in the league right now.
Can I read
tight end? I mean, it's how he introduced himself, right? On Sunday Night Football, George Kittle, tight end university.
We almost underappreciate him because he's funny. He's kind of a quirky guy. You point to and say, oh, he's always joking. He's playing, rock, paper, scissors with the camera. You're like, oh, George Kittle's so great.
It's National Tight Ends Day.
Right, but like George Kittle is quietly not having, I don't want to say an amazing year, but he's quietly had, 4 catches today or 3 catches today for 3 touchdowns. Like, even against the Giants, 7 for 90, and you're like, Chris McCaffrey and Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. It's like, oh, and George Kittle still has 3 touchdowns through 5 games this year. Granted, all of them are in 1 game, but it's crazy. One weird stat today, again, it's October, I already mentioned on accident the World Series. The Texas Rangers today scored more runs than the Cowboys scored points. The Rangers scored 11 runs. The Dallas Cowboys scored 10. Bruce Bochy's cooking more than Mike McCarthy is. Shout out Boch.
No, I mean,
having a great playoff so far. Haven't lost.
October belongs to Brock Purdy and Bruce Bochy. There's no doubt.
Never lost. Literally never lost so far. Man.
Yeah.
What are they? 5-0 as a tandem if you want to put them together? Right? 5-0?
Bochy and the Rangers are now 4-0.
4-0.
Yeah, because they're up 2-0 on the Orioles now. 6-0 as a tandem. Man. Don't mess with Brock and Bruce.
That's why they're the GOATs.
All right, a few minutes of overtime left here on 95.7 The Game. Let's hand out our game balls for today. The 49ers win 42-10. They're 5-0 now in 2023. The Cowboys fall to 3-2. Niners extend their lead atop the NFC West. The Seahawks are on a bye this week, so the Niners extend that lead by half a game. Plenty of options to choose from, Sterling. I'll go first, and I think maybe pick who you were planning on picking. I'm going Fred Warner.
Oh!
Did I get it right? That's who you're going with? Yeah! Fred Warner, he had 8 tackles. He had what I'm deeming the defensive trifecta, a sack, an interception, and a forced fumble. He was incredible. He was everywhere. The duo of him and Greenlaw were phenomenal as well. Greenlaw also had a sack. He had a number of just really hard hits over the middle. Rico Dowdle, the backup running back, and I'm talking about Greenlaw. My pick was Warner, but Greenlaw laid the lumber against Dowdle. That duo really, but specifically Fred Warner was incredible. He gets my game ball.
You know Fred Warner is the first Niner since 2013 to have a sack, forced fumble, and pick in a game?
I did not know that. Who would that have been? 2013?
Not really that hard to pick of star linebackers in San Francisco in 2013.
Patrick Willis?
No,
Navarro Bowman?
There you go.
I had a 50-50 chance.
It's like Ahmed Brooks. I have no idea. But yes, since Navarro Bowman, Fred Warner, like Greenlaw and Warner tonight looked like Willis and Bowman did in their prime. They were that good. And even the last 2 weeks, what is it? They had combined 13 tackles today. Over the past 2 weeks, I believe it's 33 tackles combined for that duo.
Pretty good.
Incredible what they've done so far this year. But I think if you're going to look at the offense, I think you want to pick Brock Purdy being 17 for 24, 252 yards. But George Kittle scored 3 touchdowns today. He had 3 receptions, 67 yards, put this offense on his back along with Brock Purdy. But what George Kittle continues to prove is that he can go quiet for 1-2 games, but all of a sudden, boom, here's George Kittle. This offense, Ayuk, Deebo, McCaffrey, and now Kittle getting in the fray with Purdy playing out of his mind, there is no weapon you can stop on this offense, and Kittle again proving that might miss a few games, might be quiet here or there, but once he gets going, he's unstoppable.
Yep. I mean, the Cowboys did a great job limiting McCaffrey. I mean, if you were to ask them, ask Dan Quinn, ask Mike McCarthy entering the game, Christian McCaffrey, you hold him to see if I can do a quick math here. You hold him to 78 total yards and 1 touchdown. You're taking that. Yeah. You're taking that every single time, and then you look up and it's a 42-10 loss. That's the plethora of weapons that the 49ers have offensively. You might be able to limit, you might be able to slow down 1 or 2, but then guess what? The other 3 are going to dominate.
Mark?
Yes,
cheer
Sterling?
with me. F-R-A-U-D-S.
I'm not.
Frauds.
You're devaluing the Niners win by doing that.
I'm just saying we exposed the Dallas Cowboys, going back to Jerry's world, crying in their Cowboys heads. It doesn't matter. Go home. Cry to your mama. Your night's over. 42-10. Niners get the win. 5-0, Mark.
Well,
5-0.
We'll see how Guru feels tomorrow morning. Tune in, Steiny and Goo, of course. That's coming up from 10 to 2 in the morning. Of course, before that, you got Spadoni with the pregame show beginning at 5. Bonte and Shasky on the morning roast from 6 to 10. I mentioned Steiny and Goo 10 to 2. And then Willard and Dibbs from 2 to 6. It'll be all football all day long on a monster Monday as the 49ers improve to 5-0 with a 42-10 win over the Dallas Cowboys. All right, that'll do it for overtime on this Sunday evening. Thanks so much for tuning in all night long. For Craig behind the glass, for John in the back as well. Shout out to both of those guys for helping make this broadcast possible. For Sterling Bennett, this is Mark Randy signing off. Thanks so much for tuning in. The Niners are 5-0. This has been Overtime on 95.7 The Game.
1-877 Cards for Kids. KARS Cards for Kids. 1-877